The story begins with Kim Young wondering if she has succeeded after the master of the final floor has vanquished, as the clear condition of the epic quest has been fulfilled. She wonders, really? It's truly the end now. However, the monster in the game cannot believe he lost to a human and thinks this cannot be happening. He whines about his grand plan not being concluded yet. She asks him, is he really talking about a grand plan? Well, if world domination is such a big deal, he cannot really die with grace. She is quick to add it's really uncreative. The system tells him the King of Waves and Healing expresses regret that he is now returning to the original world, and the malicious blood cult leader sniffles with tears. She asks him why is he crying. It's just the end of the story. They have been through enough together, haven't they? And it seems like it's time to say goodbye. The system asks her how she could say such a thing. She simply replies, oh, they're getting old now, and requests them to let her just go home. She lets them know her dog is waiting for her. Her Maltese Cerberus must be eagerly waiting for her alone. The system points out that when the possession ends, the dog won't remember the time he has been waiting. She tells them that's right, she's the one waiting and she's dying to see her dog at home. That's when the monster lets her know he will seek revenge. She admits he is quite persistent, but tells him to seek revenge from the uncreative author, not her. He warns her since she has destroyed his wish, he will also destroy her strongest wish. She attacks him with her sword and tells him if he's going to die, then he should die quickly instead of cursing around. She reminds him how many people he has killed and talks about revenge as if it's some wish, others don't have that luxury, he should die. He gives her an evil smile and tells her in the next life, his revenge will be fulfilled. She will forever remain there. She thinks he's already talking about next life, huh? But she is done. As long as she clears the quest, she is out. He can curse all he wants, but she still won. The other users praise her for her wisdom, and the Lord of Temptation tempts her to dream of puppies 100 times more. However, the malicious blood cult leader subtly suggests that he should become a dog. She calls him a grandfather and asks him how old is he. He's offended and says that he's not a grandfather, but a figure of reverse age transformation. She says, what can she do anyway? Both she and the old man are over 100 years old anyway. The malicious blood cult leader urges her to quickly claim her clear rewards and turns away. She agrees that there's no delay and asks the system to go to the quest window and demand them to quickly give her rewards. However, the system provides her with emergency notice. There has been an error in the system and they are urgently updating it. They deeply appreciate her patience. She wonders what's this. This is a new notification, isn't it? The system further informs her that currently she cannot access the status window. She goes berserk and screams at them, then what about the rewards? Will the rewards be given properly? The system sends another notification that the system is currently undergoing an update. She should wait a moment. She shouts at them and demands to know what nonsense this is. She wants her rewards right now and to go back. They instead provide her with a new notification. That the author of S-Rank Hunter Gets Stronger with Regression has released their new work. They ask her how about enjoying the author's next work called What If the Hunter Becomes the Villainous Duchess Lover right now? She's sweating as she asks why such a cheap title for the next work. The system tells her quest conditions have been met and congratulates her on clearing the epic quest successfully. However, due to a system error, the content of the rewards will be changed. Previous clear reward was possession end and then return to the original world. But the changed clear reward is repossession end and the repossession as another novel protagonist. She's so clueless that she cannot find the right words to ask. The system alert responds by apologizing, and then it seems due to the current system error. It may be difficult to provide the promised reward to return back to her world. Instead, it will give her an even better reward. It will repossess her as the protagonist of her next work as Rank Hunter becomes the villainous duchess. The system is quick to add that they believe she will be satisfied, as this novel is also entertaining. She literally loses it upon hearing it and screams at them to call the management team or call the author. The ruler of the final floor, the regressor who annihilated the owner of the tower. She was actually in a state of possession. In the fantasy novel, the Rank Hunter gets stronger every regression. The day she took the civil service exam in South Korea, she studied for 4 years and 7 months and finally passed, celebrating with a meal out. She got into a car accident and died. And then she got possessed in the novel she had been reading during her 4 years and 7 months of her exam preparation. At first, it was fun to become an S-Rank Hunter and turn into Munchkin. Also, she made a contract after snatching away the top 3 rankings of the thrones from their original work. Despite having such overpowering stats, Young never managed to defeat the boss, even once, as the antagonist and final boss of the novel she possessed was just too strong with no weakness and incredibly diverse attack patterns. There was no strategy to defeat them, plus, since the novel was unfinished, the matter to clear the game was unknown. Nevertheless, Kim Young succeeded. She managed to devise a strategy to defeat the final boss after 58 regressions. She has entered the new novel with a new face and wonder, so what do they do now, even though she was supposed to return to the original world and all? She is furious that instead of giving out the rewards for completing the quest while dying, they are making her possess another novel again. She calls for the quest window, and it appears Dada provides her with information that she is now incarnated as the infamous villainous Reincarnates Girl, the daughter of the strongest martial artist of the Landish Empire. She has been falsely accused of murdering the Saint Reincarnates and hiding her body, and now she is imprisoned in an underground dungeon, and she has to find a way to escape from the prison at all costs. She thinks, luckily, through the quest window, she can at least roughly understand the situation. The system remains the same, only the world has changed, and judging by the title and the quest content of the novel, it seems like she is incarnated into a romance fantasy novel. She wonders what should she do. She hates romance. She reads the other information provided by the system and wonders if there is a balanced patch going on. She has never encountered this before. Every time the system displayed an intricate level of perfection, it felt so meticulously crafted to the point where it seemed like everything was tailored just for her. She thinks the fact that the system, which used to be so meticulous, is now showing such sloppy behavior. She believes it probably means that this wasn't a planned incarnation. Perhaps it's indeed the work of that owner of the tower pulling some tricks. She thinks so that curse in the end was powerful enough to cause errors in the system. But there is no point in just thinking while trapped, so she should start with the quest. She knows she needs to escape from this prison, then she can also escape from this incarnation. She decides to first experiment to see the extent of her abilities. The malicious Blood Lord suggests her to start by breaking everything, while the King of Waves and Healing advises caution and tries to restrain the malicious Blood Lord. She asks them what do they know about this world and demand them to explain it to her. The Lord of Temptation says that this world is connected to their homeland, the demon realm where they were born. She wonders if it's just a typical fantasy world, isn't it? Anyway, that's just beside the point. She asks, could they check their stats as anyone's stats changed? The malicious Blood Lord says that they have fallen from being able to traverse continents to being able to split mountains. The tempting sovereign says that it's worse than the underworld, but better than the previous one. The King of Waves and Healings is watered that their stats have significantly decreased. She asks them how much worse the stats have gotten. The King of Waves and Healing team says they cannot use the resurrection of water skill here. She tells them that's oak, since she could hardly use it in her past life anyway, and then asks if everyone is oak then. They all nod in agreement. She believes so basically her abilities are just slightly worse than before, and that she just needs to worry about the standard of this world. With seemingly effortless strength, she dismantles the prison cell, shattering its hinges as if they were mere fragile obstacles. She wonders if perhaps there is no need to worry after all. The Landish Empire's greatest warrior, the iron-blooded Marquis Makiris, the Empire's only duke who has built up honor with his exceptional swordsmanship. For centuries, the Makiris family has consistently produced numerous foreign masters, but now faces the imminent threat of downfall. The only saint in the empire and the fiance of the crown prince Reincarnates. The noble daughter of the Makiris disappeared on the outskirts of the Makiris duchy. Even the most likely suspect is Ring Makiris, the disgraced noblewoman and the empire's worst villainess. She is the daughter of the Makiris duke. And to Makiris, the Marquis of Makiris orders his men to prepare for the battle. He adds she may be an unparalleled skilled fighter, but there's a palpable tension in the air. His brother Kurul Makiris, the second son of the Makiris duke, has already drawn out his sword. And adds when the count reaches 3, they need to attack together. The count starts. They all get ready to attack, but just as they count 3, Reen appears from the basement all lively and energetic, noticing they are accompanied by so many people. Later, they are settled in the living room, and her brothers demand she spit it out. Who got her out of the prison? She casually replies she did, just because that prison was poorly guarded. He thinks to herself, Seriously, how many times are they going to ask the same question? They need to progress the quest instead of wasting time here. Aunt asks her, so whose skill was that exceptional agility, and demands to know the name of that brat who's helping her. She thinks to herself he's got quite the voice. He asks her if that's the guy who killed Karis. Did she hire him? He observes her dismissive demeanor and asks if she is even listening to him. Carol replies on her behalf and says looks like she's not listening, brother. She is, however, busy observing their affinity and believes even with the broken status screens, their affinity is rock bottom. The system tells her she has 2 older brothers, and she needs to develop her relationship with those 2 in order to secure a better future. Aunt affinity is 800 and Carol affinity is 600, clear reward. Partial restoration of status screens. The system tells her she has been accused of murdering St. Leon Curris, and she needs to make someone believe in her innocence. Clear conditions are to create a believer Gleer, and reward is prestige plus 30. She mumbles about how she is tasked with taking care of these brats' affinities and her crumbling reputation. Aunt asks her what is she saying. She replies he doesn't need to know, but thanks for his concern, and then remembers about affinity. She needs to watch her manners if she needs to raise affinity. This causes him to be mad, who believes it seems like she has completely lost her mind, while Krill tries to distract him so the situation doesn't worsen, and she is busy thinking, let's forget about these guys and focus on raising prestige. She tells him that's beside the point, but she's just saying because she doesn't really understand the current situation she is in. She asks them why they would think she killed that saint. Aunt asks why does he think she killed the saint? Is she really saying that nonsense? He reminds her she was the one spreading rumors about killing the saint. He adds she even disappeared from their family estate and the whole world suspects she is the one behind it. He says even if they imprisoned her for centuries, it's uncertain if the family's honor will be preserved, yet she managed to escape prison again. He asks her how far does she intend to disgrace their family name. She simply replies, all right. She got the information he mentioned and asks, so where's the evidence? Is there a body? He says, wasn't it dismembered? Is it still intact? Did she hide the body and evidence? That's why she's quite confident. She ignores his tantrum and simply asks, so nothing's been found yet? Carol replies, well, there's no solid evidence, but she is the only suspect. No one else came even close to being a suspect. Aunt reminds them just her having a grudge against Karis is a challenging issue in itself. Aunt questions if it wasn't her, then who could have killed someone so virtuous? Aunt tells her it's not even too late now. She confesses and reveals the location of the body. His Highness, the prince, might forgive her, at least until the audience trial. He reminds her that father was going to the palace to preserve the family's honor to some extent, so if she has any last bit of conscience left, she should speak up. She wonders why are they bringing up the prince instead of the emperor here. Carol asks her what is with her reaction. He reminds her that the prince is personally overseeing this case. She says no, but why would the prince go to such lengths usually? But she's cut off by Aunt, who questions is she still under the illusion that His Highness will favor her. He is quick to add it's been over 3 years since His Highness got engaged to Karis Leon, and she should get rid of the illusion that there will be an opportunity. He says enough with the family nonsense, and isn't she tired of this unrequited love? She realizes so that's what happened. Rein loved the prince too much, so she tried several times to kill his fiancé. She thinks it's too obvious to even think about, but something does not seem right. She remembers the quest log said she was accused of, so that could only mean one possibility, that Rein did not kill her. She believes the system may lack consciousness and shame, but it does not lie. Fiction doesn't lie to its readers, but it can certainly intentionally conceal the truth. She wonders, so who could have done it then? She tells her brothers, so she has got a rough idea of this situation and asks them to listen to her. She says, well, the saint could have left on her own. Aunt rubs his face with his palm while Carol looks at her as if she has lost her mind. Carol tells her to use her brain and reminds her Karis was scheduled to marry the prince in a month. Would someone like that suddenly disappear on their own? Rein thinks then the possibilities increase, as she might have run away because she did not want to get married. Aunt asks her, does the saint seem like someone who would throw such a petty tantrum, and tells her not to equate herself with her. Rein says, why such a narrow view where you can be useful? She warns him that with such a petty heart he cannot do much. She notices Carol seems to respond better than expected and wonders if she should exaggerate it a bit more. She adds, but the saint must have struggled a lot. Ant inquires what does she mean. She reminds him he said himself that the saint is very kind, so she probably ran away because she did not like the prince but was too weak to reject him face to face. She gives him an evil grin and says, so what about investigating the prince for now? Carol starts laughing and the system informs her that Carol's favorability has increased by 10. Rein says to Ant not to just doubt her, even if others don't know her. He is her brother, so how about trusting her for once? He says, is she trying to emphasize their blood relationship now? She corrects him. It's not an emphasis. It's basic, isn't it? Just once trusting and embracing each other as a family. Ant thinks for a moment, but then tells her if she had shown a gesture of trust even once, he would have believed her. But their family has given her chances repeatedly with the belief that she will come to her senses someday, and the result is this. She says, well, since there's a record, she guesses it cannot be helped. However, she extends an offer to them to just give her 1 month. If they give her just 1 month, she will prove her innocence. Both the brothers are taken aback by her demand, but Ant composes himself and asks her if she even knows what she will do. Rein tells him to stop it and just trust her for once. She smiles at him and asks if he's getting nervous because he knows she might be right. He clenches his fist and says fine, if she can prove her innocence, he will do anything, even stake his name. She tells Carol he is the witness. He eagerly agrees. The system then asks her if she would like to check the quest. She does, as she has been waiting. The quest shows that she made a deal with Ant to prove her innocence within 1 month and prove that she did not kill the saint, and the clear condition is to prove innocence. Clear reward is she can make 1 wish to Auntie. She notices Carol's favorability went up and thinks, oh, Carol's favorability goes up too. But the problem lies for her. Why isn't Ant's favorability going up? She thinks even if his own brother's innocence is proven, his favorability doesn't increase, and what hidden settings does he have anyway? Ant abruptly turns and finds his sister with her hand extended, who asks him to take care of it for a month. He asks her what does she mean by take care. It might be wise to prepare for failure even now. He shakes her hand. She tells him, oh, thanks for worrying about it. Carol says it seems like something has changed. Ant looks at his hand and thinks he did not plan to shake hands, but he couldn't avoid her hand. He thinks as a top-tier sword expert, he couldn't avoid the hand of a civilian who knows nothing about swordsmanship. Even when he held her hand, he couldn't feel anything. No skills, no kindness. But a moment ago, he almost drew his sword without realizing and just reached out his hand. He wonders why. What on earth is this? Later, Rein thinks, what should she do now? She lacks too much information, so even if she tries to move, she doesn't know anything. She decides to start by obtaining some information sources and thinks there must be someone at this large mansion who is somewhat friendly towards her, right? However, the maids treat her very badly and misbehave with her and tell her to stop tarnishing the Duke's name any further. She wonders how did Rein even survive here, as they are treating someone like this with such contempt. On top of that, her favorability drops even if she meets anyone. She decides to give up on getting information from this mansion, but one thing needs to be said. She holds the maid's hand and asks her to at least tell her way to the room. The mansion is just too big for human decency. When she steps in her room, she is surprised as the room is actually nice compared to the treatment hut. She says let's start by changing out of these uncomfortable clothes. Upon exploring her closet, she discovers an array of dresses, accompanied by matching jewelry and shoes. She is mad as these dresses look to her as fancy-looking candy wrappers. She figured that Duke would be wealthy since he is a duke, but to spend this much on this, she thinks it is sweet for a noble woman like this. She wonders if with this kind of wealth, he could easily buy information sources with money, right? Actually, it's easy for her to create admirers. The malicious blood priest has the grandpa's sorcery, and the Lord of Temptation has the grandpa's skill, but now, during the adjustment of status, the combat transport skill was triggered in the middle of a battle in the war, resulting in the death of the direct subordinate. Now skill usage must be suspended. She thinks now it's possible to kill everyone like back then, and it's a situation where it might be possible to regress like back then. She knows they need to move cautiously and decides first to confirm if the saint is really dead, as there are no bodies, no evidence, no witness. She thinks either the saint ran away or was murdered, but nobody knows for sure. If the saint is alive, she needs to get her statement. If she's dead, she needs to catch the culprit and solve the quest. If she proceeds step by step like this, she will eventually be able to leave this world. She asks the King of Waves and Healing if they can find the saint. The King of Wave and Healing replies if he has her belongings, he can track her. The malicious blood priest asks if it's to just blame anyone for the crime. The Lord of Temptation boasts about his expertise in his field. Rein warns him he is saying some dangerous things. It seems like there's someone here who also deals with the sacred, so the old tempter might get caught. The Lord of Temptation cannot handle the shocking matching. She tells them she thinks she should leave here. It seems like she won't be able to get any information sources, even if she spends money here. The King of Waves and Healing expresses concern about whether it's safe. She arrogantly says, "Oh, who's she?" as an S-rank hunter and the regressionist who cleared the top tower. The malicious blood priest scoffs at the idea that everyone who meets her is in danger. The Lord of Temptation laughs uproariously at the joke from the malicious blood priest. The cunning Lord of Blood suggests going to the missing scene. She tells him it's a good idea, but she doesn't know where the missing scene is. The astute Lord of Blood makes a sharp observation. She says it's true, but she cannot give up even shit can be used for evil in this world. She goes to her brother Ant to get the report of the incident. She tells him if he doesn't want to remain as a family suspected of murdering the saint, so he should cooperate quietly. This causes him to be furious, who asks if she is threatening him. He then sighs and says he can give her the report. However, taking a guard with her is a condition. She tells him she doesn't need that. If it's his guys, they will just be a burden. He asks her if she doesn't understand the meaning of the condition. She points out at his closest associate and says that person will do since they will be watching her anyway and reporting back. Wouldn't it put his mind more at ease to send a closest associate? She also demands him to lend a carriage too. She arrives at the place where the saint was last seen. It's outside the Duchy of Makiris. According to the report, 10 days ago, the saint disappeared while providing healing services in this slum. It is still unclear whether she was kidnapped or disappeared. Nelson Priest approaches her and asks what is going on here. She observes the priest and thinks it looks like he's doing something extravagant, right? And also notices the book he's carrying and wonders what that luminous book is. She lets him know she is here to reveal the true culprit and asks them to cooperate. The priest's men question that did not they say the Duke's daughter was the culprit, and now they're claiming there's another culprit. She tells them it's not a claim, it's a fact because she did not kill the saint. She is quick to remind them that they also have no evidence or witnesses that she is the culprit. Since they don't have the ability to find the saint, they probably haven't found her yet. She hopes they understand that she means to join forces for good. She has a plan that she's just going to suck up their information and investigate on her own. The priest men say what she says is also correct and looks like they're ready to work with her. But the priest notices and doesn't like it and questions how they can believe the young lady's claim of innocence. She smiles and thinks, look at this guy. Looking at him, it looks like he's not good with his bare mouth. She guesses her security is being questioned and lets them know she brought donations like this and has literally brought lots of jewels and treasures. The priest's greedy eyes sparkle with light upon seeing the jewels. He apologizes for not knowing her true feelings and asks if there's anything he can help her with. First of all, she asks him if he has any of Reincarnates' belongings. The longer he has something, the better. He smiles and says then there's nothing like the scripture. It belongs to the saint. He asks if there's anything else she needs. She thinks as expected. The more money spent, the faster it becomes. She tells him she wants to look around the tent where Lady Karis stayed. When she arrives at the tent, she notices it's neat, frugal at the level of advertising that she is a saint. The associate she brought along calls for her. He asks her about the donation. She says, why is there a problem? Because as she remembers thanks to it, she also about the scriptures. He says no, that's not it. He thought she hated the church. He seems hesitant and says because something like that happened with the archbishop. She wonders what he is talking about again and asks for him to go on. He apologizes and says it must have been something she doesn't want to think about again. She tells him no, keep going. She has done many things that she cannot remember. He reminds her when the archbishop declared Lady Karis a saint. On that occasion, the young lady poured champagne into the archbishop's face. She sharply cuts him off and says enough and tells him to say no more. She thinks this body lived a very hard life. He adds that it wasn't because of the saint the archbishop said she had committed a very indecent act. He says that's what happened. Still, people did not believe it and what the archbishop did was in vain. He asks her if that was also a misunderstanding. Right, She tells him to think whatever he likes. Isn't everyone like that by now anyway? Think what they like and do what they like. She thinks to herself, no one listens to someone without a bad reputation. She then tells him she will investigate her, so he should go out and wait. The old memories resurfaces. In past life, her previous life, even in countless regressions, it was something she had experienced several times. Moreover, it will be something she will experience in the future. In this situation, facts are of no use. The truth is what they want to hear because what they don't want to hear is a lie. She knows she cannot trust anything other than herself. And since she came in, the body is her. Is there anyone else in this world who can trust her as much as she does? She thinks no matter what suspicious or false accusations are thrown at her, she will still believe in Rein. Even if she was a really bad kid. What would she have done? In this world, everyone sees her as a bad person, so she should become a bad person. She makes a promise to Rein that she will listen to her. From now on, she will never doubt Rein. On the other hand, the priest informs Sidon and Sarad, who asked if the daughter of the Duke came to visit. The priest tells him they say they are conducting a direct investigation to prove their innocence. The priest thinks he would have never thought that His Highness the Crown Prince would send Sidon, a person who earned the title of Mercenary King at the age of 20. He is the head of the Shira Guild, the continent's best mercenary guild. One of the only two sword masters in the Empire. There are endless titles that describe him, including the Light of the Ramdisha Empire. But he thinks it takes a person like this to be able to investigate a case like this. Sidon asks the priest if he believes that she has come here to prove her innocence. He replies he doesn't believe it completely, but he thinks there will be a lot of backlash from them if they don't give them a chance at all. Sidon believes he must have taken a bribe. Not surprising, however, what's surprising is the fact that Rein came all this way and investigated in person. He thinks it seems like she was quite impatient. He recalls the rumors he has heard about her cutting off Viscount Kelsey's hair, making the saint's trip. Of course, there are definitely some unclear parts, but he knows it has nothing to do with him. He instructs the priest to refrain from giving her any information, in particular, the fact that there are witnesses must be hidden. When the priest tries to say something, he cuts him off by saying this is what the Crown Prince ordered. He then says, let's go and meet the Duke's daughter now. The priest collapses without any sign. He didn't even feel any magic. He thinks this is the energy of a dream demon. He pushes off the dream demon and pulls out his sword quickly. He thinks to himself he who is the sword master can barely withstand it, then it must surely be a power comparable to that of a high-ranking demon. He thinks who on earth could summon this level of demons, moreover, in a place with so many priests. He can feel it and believes this person is surely stronger than the Crown Prince. In this uncertain and unstable world, the one and the only thing that supported Sidon, which allowed the war orphan to survive without ever seeming strange, was war. Due to this, he pursued and coveted only power like a devout believer. Even though he hails as the mercenary king for building the continent's largest mercenary guild. Even when he amassed wealth and power through the consolidation of the upper class, he continued to feel a burning thirst. It is like looking up at the sun, shining down into a dry well. The only thing that can relieve the endless thirst, however, as that thirst grows longer, is overwhelming strength more overpowering than even the continent's mightiest crown prince. He steps out of his tent and notices the entire area fell into slumber. That isn't possible with just one dream demon. The energy is strongest there and realizes that it's the saint's tent over there. Approaching the location, his eyes widen in shock, sensing the profound and intense energy that pervades the surroundings. He thinks it's strange, as if it already surpassed his limits. He has never experienced such an energy before. He realizes it's beyond human understanding and isn't as close to a natural disaster. He cannot even dare to compare it to the Crown Prince, as this is someone who nobody would dare to harm. He cannot afford to miss such a golden opportunity. He needs to find who it is. He thinks what he has achieved so far has not been his goal. Only becoming stronger gives him satisfaction. More, he wants to feel more. He steps in the tent and screams for the person to show himself. Nevertheless, he begins to feel dizzy, and before long, he collapses onto the floor, succumbing to unconsciousness. Our female protagonist notices him and thinks, what about this kitten? Moments ago, system notification popped up. They apologize sincerely for any inconvenience caused to the possessed person. The synchronization of possession and system adjustment has been completed. She thinks no wonder it has sealed half of her abilities. This must be designed to be solved later as a quest. She wonders why it is so annoying. She sighs and thinks she should be satisfied with this much and asks if they find the saint with this scripture sister water. She asks the tempting old man, if he did summon a demon here, would it be trouble in front of the priests? The Lord of Temptation gets angry and tells her not to ignore him. She smiles and says, all right then. Let's ask the priest for a short nap, and all the demons surround her. Back to the present, Sidon is unconscious. She has settled him in the bed and is sitting next to him, thinking he's really pretty. He reminds her of a cat she used to have next door Blackie some time ago. The King of Waves and Healing admires the appearance of Sidon with her. She thinks there's something about these eyes that particularly catches her heart. The leader of the Vicious Blood cult says she really genuinely appreciates beauty. Rein replies, well, that could be the reason. The Lord of Temptation playfully suggests that he noticed her admiration when summoning demons, hinting that she has a fondness for handsome men. She mutes the Lord of Temptation and thinks, what nonsense is he saying? System alerts her that the Lord of Temptation has sent her a private message in exchange for 100 years reprieve from the afterlife. The Lord of Temptation demands to know how she can mute him just because he said she likes handsome men. She covers her ears and says it's so loud. Stop it. Please stop and think the system must be crazy. Why does it use private chat? She tells them to concentrate. Now they need to decide what to do with this guy. The Lord of Temptation complains that he doesn't like him since he fell asleep. She checks his stats and believes they are pretty strong. She then realizes no wonder the Dreamer Demon had a hard time. After all, strength is everything. Lord of Temptation says how about killing him right now? She says let's keep him alive for now as she quite likes him. She thinks because it's the first time someone whose affection toward Breen is not negative. She thinks, well, he's not only pretty and cute, but also seems obedient, right? Looking at his favorability, it seems that he's not someone who only judges people by listening to others. The leader of Vicious Blood senses something ominous is going to happen. She thinks, judging by his title, he must have a lot of information, and since he is a sword master, he doesn't have to worry about falling over and dying. She convinces herself these will be all in her favor so she could have him. She says good, she has decided he is hers from now on. The leader of Vicious Blood is confused and asks what that means. She replies she is going to make him her subordinate. He's like a perfect pet for her, more like a human companion, right? The leader of Vicious Blood strongly threatens to get angry if she doesn't kill the guy right away. She tells him to do whatever he wants and asks the Lord of Temptation if he came up with anything. The Lord of Temptation gives her the report of the dream demons. She checks it and says mostly there's nothing special, but realizes there is a witness. The Lord of Temptation delivers the witness information to her. She thinks, look at this, there's a witness, and they hid it from her. They are going to swallow everything up and then clean their mouth. Thinking that it was also the orders of the Crown Prince, and this guy makes her more furious. She excitedly ends up hitting him in the nose. She is shocked she hit him without even realizing it. The Lord of Temptation snorts and asks if he might die because of that. The leader of the Vicious Blood agrees and says he is speaking the truth for the first time in a while. The King of Waves and Healing rebukes the human companion, saying that the face is important, but this may be too much. The King of Waves and Healing reprimands and says it is excessive to prioritize appearance for human companions. The Lord of Temptation says it's because they are more handsome. She tells the guys it is enough. The leader of the Vicious Blood cult shakes his head as if he's tired of this. She mutes all of them, but decides to unmute Sister Water since she needs her help with the treatment. She decides to fix her mistake, but she will scold him separately later. She whispers to him she will see him soon and calls him her companion and leaves. In Sidon's dream, Reem refers to him as Blackie and tells him it's time to get punished for making his master angry. He's confused and asks what is she talking about. Her response to that is that she is his master from today, and if he does not wake up, she will punish him. He is still confused and repeats once again the question. What is she talking about? He asks her, who the hell is she? Slowly and gradually, he regains his consciousness with the help of Water Sister, but his nose hurts and he wonders why does his nose hurt. He slowly recalls what happened earlier and thinks about his energy and wonders what happened to his energy. His eyes then land on Reen, who is sitting next to him, and asks him if he is up now. He addresses her as the daughter of Duke Makiris. She says he seems to know her and inquires if they have met before. He explains to her they have never met before and thinks it's a completely different atmosphere than he has heard, but he closes his eyes as if trying to remember something. When she's too much into his personal space, he kindly requests if she can please step back. She simply whispers, he remembers. He asks her what. She says her spirit and places her hand on his. He notices when she put her hand on his. No more than that, and the feeling came rushing back. He cannot believe it. His eyes widen in shock when he realizes. It feels like she seems to know what conclusion his mind came to. Because she confirms yes, the person he came for is her. He asks her if she was the one who summoned a high-ranking demon. She says she thought his wisdom stat was high, but he's a bit stupid. He's still confused, so she changes the topic and asks if he followed the Crown Prince orders and refers to him as Blackie. Her blue eyes become darker and her gaze focused and calculated, and she questions him why did not he not announce that there was a witness. He seems reluctant to reply and chooses to act ignorant and says he has no idea what she is talking about. The next moment she is in his face and warns him that they shouldn't waste each other's time. She just met the witness in person and heard everything. She asks what is the last act of the saint and who is the one who told him to cover it up. But what annoys her the most is she grabs his jaw and lets him know that they hid it and pretended they did not know. She knows the saint was not kidnapped. She left on her own, which means there was absolutely no reason for her to be locked in a dungeon. It seems like he is flustered because of her close proximity, as he easily reveals that the Crown Prince assumed that Saint left because she threatened her. She leans into him and whispers he is more obedient than she thinks, right? She doesn't think he's scared. She asks him if she doesn't look like Cerberus. The other lords all witness this in awe. She says, well, there is a record about her in the past, so it is a reasonable guess, but it's not true. He reminds her that the Crown Prince must have a different opinion about her. She guesses so too. The new bride disappeared just before her wedding. Hiding the only witness in that situation either could be because he is the one who turned his back and can't trust anyone because his fiancée disappeared, or because he is the one whose reputation is linked to his fiancé. They believe it's one of the two. Sidon says that's quite different from the rumors he heard that she has been in love with the Crown Prince for a long time. Listening to her, he thinks it's rather close to hate him. She responds to him by claiming she doesn't like him anymore. No, she hates him. She believes no matter how much of a twist it may have been, why would she even like the guy who framed her? He remains quiet for some time, as if having an internal debate, but then confesses to her that he has one thing to tell her. He reveals the Crown Prince and the Saint. The two are known to be lovers of the century, but the reality is different. Their engagement was nothing more than a contractual relationship. He further adds it was an engagement decided only because it was necessary. She claims she knew they were not in love with each other. But then she realizes he is giving her secrets and asks why is he telling her that all of a sudden. He gives her an innocent smile. She lets him know whatever it may be. If what he says is true, it makes sense. It was an engagement out of necessity. He must have wanted to eliminate any circumstances that would make him suspect that he was the one who kidnapped and murdered his fiancé. She also knows she was a thorn in his throat, so he got rid of it. She sighs in relief and says now that she has figured out everything she needed to know, she has to go. Just as she turns to leave, Sidon halts her in her tracks with a demanding question, seeking to know if she happens to be a demon. She replies, what is he talking about? Of course she's a human. He wants to know then how did she get to such a state with her human body? He narrows his eyes as he says that was the power that could not exist. That energy, no matter what he thinks, wasn't something that a person could have. It's not just strong, but a very dark power that seems to harbor an old grudge. He demands to know what did she have to go through to have this kind of power. She tells him all he has to do is die 58 times. He is taken aback by her answer and whispers what. She says, or the other alternative could be to try to save the world. He wonders if this is a joke. He reveals to her that he has heard that the lady has never held a sword before. He wants to know why is she hiding her power. With that much power to the Empire, Nogi corrects it's a power that can unify the continent. She simply replies, what is she going to do with unification? She is not interested in that at all. He says he knew it. She only follows the path of the sword. She thinks what is he talking about? She just wants to go home. He grabs the blanket tightly and reveals that he has decided that he will serve his lady as she will be his teacher. They both remain in awkward silence for some moments. Her mind turns blank, trying to contemplate if she heard right, while he looks more than eager to be a student. Sidon answered, who is he? He has achieved countless achievements to the point where he is called the light of the empire. He has received both a lot of hate and admiration because he is a commoner of unknown origin. The only thing he's interested in is the part of the sword, but the desire to overcome his own limitations is another. But even the crown prince, who was said to be the strongest in the empire, wasn't enough for him. He thought his highness was stronger than him, but that's all. The difference in skill doesn't overwhelm him. When he lost his goal, boredom overwhelmed him. He had no interest in anything, but one day he encountered a light that illuminated his forgotten longing, and it is called Reincarnates. The system reveals Sidon favorability has increased by 200. Once again, he requests her to please teach him a great lesson. The system tells Rein an unexpected option occurs. A mercenary king has asked her to accept him as a disciple. Would she accept that offer? She's busy contemplating what to do while he thinks is she going to serve him as a teacher. Rein thinks she has never made anything like that, let alone a disciple in her long life. No matter how many years it takes, the end is the same anyway. She reveals it's hard to live alone, but she hates taking responsibility for other people's lives. She wonders if this guy is worth enough to overturn that idea. He looks at her with puppy eyes as he's waiting for her answer. It seems like she must have come up with her decision, as the system says the selection is complete. She responds no. The system tells her that she has responded no, and Sidon's favorability has decreased by 100. He has a sad expression on his face as he questions does she perhaps not like him. She tells him that she likes him. She ponders that it's just that she has her own ways. He asks her then why before she turns around and waves him goodbye. As she mentions that she does not like having someone take responsibility for this, he calls out to her asking for a minute. He stares at her as she becomes surprised. Noting that he is shocking her, she is aware that his eyes are very similar to their cutest Cerberus in her world. The system tells her that since he is so handsome, it recommends her that she listens to him. She decides to hear him as she asks him to say it. He tells her that he is stuck at the moment, as even after rigorous training, and even when he met the crown prince, who's said to be the strongest person on the continent, he could feel nothing. But the moment he laid his eyes on her, he saw something awaken. She questions what is that something. He slightly blushes, unable to respond. She becomes shocked, pondering that cannot be the case. He tries to speak to her as she thinks that this baby who was just born earlier. She is shocked as she cannot believe he is having feelings for her who was born a long time ago, before he asks her to teach him, telling him that it's definitely a compliment, and this is the first time that he feels like he wanted to compete with someone like this. She seems annoyed at the constellation who told her to listen to him. She mentions that she is grateful for that, and thanks him, but he nervously tells her that he is not asking her to accept him. He mentions that if she accepts him as her discipline, he will also help her both materially and spiritually. He will get her anything that she wants and listen to her every command. She wonders if he is the perfect person to use as a source of information. The system says yes, as she mentions that she has decided that she will accept him as her discipline. She ponders that he should know that he survived only thanks to his face. Sidon favorability increases up to 200. As the system informs her that he has become her discipline and fame has increased by 100. As well as she receives a tip, which is that the more she makes relationship with others, the more her reputation will increase. She also receives the notification that she got her first discipline and questions how about she increases her relationship with her students. He calls her as master and thanks her. She seems awkward with it as she asks him to call her only lady as he used to, as she seems to be getting goosebumps. She questions that he said he would help her in any way materially and spiritually. She questions that she would like to ask him something. He tells her that he will answer anything. She finds it a bit burdensome that he agreed to it so well. She wonders if it is really what Lopan people are like. She tells him that the crown prince and the saint, if he knows anything about those two, then he should please tell her. She also states that since he is in a position to receive orders from the crown prince, she asks if he thinks that it'll be difficult to answer her question. He responds no, as he does not have any intention to hide anything from his teacher. Mentioning that he did not even offer his loyalty to the crown prince, she ponders that it is really burden, but it also seems comfortable. She tells him that she would like to ask him for a favor. He tells her that before he mentions it, he recommends that it's better to not be an enemy with the crown prince as he has a political position. She pats him, questioning if he is worried about her. Mentioning that he is really the same as Cerberus, he responds that he is not someone to be taken lightly. She asks him to not worry and just answer her. She ponders that his explanation was as exactly like she guessed. The saint, Reincarnates, has received the grace of Belia and is called the incarnation of the god. Thanks to her power and character, she is loved by all the empire. The crown prince gains strong support from the people of the empire through his engagement to a saint. Every effort was made to avoid damaging the engagement relationship. He does not mind seeing blood, even for just putting out a small spark. However, in such a situation, the disappearance of a saint occurred. In addition, there was even an eyewitness testimony that the saint disappeared on her own. She tells him that the eyewitness story bothers her no matter how much she thinks about it. The last witness, the youngest priest. He was nursing a saint who was struggling, maybe even if it was a revelation. She continues that he said that he heard the saint sleeping talk that she had to leave. She said that she had to go, mentioning that it was dangerous and she had to leave quickly. The witness wondered if she is sleep talking and told her that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince will protect the saint so she could rest assured. She responded that she had to go, and if she did not go then it would be dangerous. After that, the saint disappeared while the priest was asleep, and then they reported it to the Crown Prince. She questions what was on earth so dangerous that the saint ran away that night. She ponders that if she became a saint, would not she be able to protect her own body with her holy powers? Vicious cult blood leader says that points out it is because she is the standard for strength. Lord of Temptation said that if she was that strong, she would not have suffered. King of Waves and Healing said to ask Green if she thinks if there is no one as strong as she is in the country. She told everyone to please be quiet. All constellations mute. He mentioned that if the new bride disappears before her wedding, saying it is dangerous, then most people will be suspicious of her fiance. The Crown Prince was concerned about such situation. Moreover, there were competitors. She questions what does he mean by competitor. He responds that a princess who enjoys the support of the emperor and nobles. Sidon von Ramdish, in fact, she is the Grand Prince's only individual and political opponent. Currently, there are only 2 members of the royal family left excluding the emperor. He questions if she knew about it. She asks if there's some circumstances. She wonders that the situation where she returned 58 times in the Hunter series and then became possessed in the romance series. She calls out to him and tells him this is a bit embarrassing if he asks her what happened. She tells him that in order to clear the murder charge, she has to find the saint and show that she is still alive, but it is a bit hard to bring back a kind who left because she said it was dangerous. She continues, mentioning that she thinks it is too much. She feels that her throat is dry now. He calls out to her as she tells him do not look at her like that because she's not a good person, as he thinks. He tells her that he does not know how the rumor got so wrong and he will go right now and make corrections. She asks him to not do it and just stay still. She tells him that she is here to prove her innocence right. And now that she sees it, the problem seems to be the Crown Prince. So she guesses that she can solve that first. She covers his eyes with her hands as he mentions that he does not quite understand how she plans to solve it. He grabs her hand as he asks if she could teach him. She's lost of words as she ponders she regrets this. She tells him that it is not difficult, just meet him and negotiate. He mentions, but the prince will never listen to her. She asks him who said that. She tells him that she prefers physical communication over words as she pulls his nose. He questions if she is planning to use force and tells her that he thinks it is a good choice since the Crown Prince will be no match for her. She tells him it is not like that and asks what does he even think of her as. She tells him that if he thinks about it, it is something similar to a threat, but it is not a life threat. She tells him that if she wants to negotiate, she has to meet the Crown Prince first, and as he said, the Crown Prince will absolutely ignore her words or any meeting. However, if he invades the imperial family, things will become more troublesome. But she really needs to see the guy who accused her of being the culprit based on his suspicions without any clear physical evidence. She questions if he knows how to get a guy who will not leave the house. She shows his fist as she mentions that she is going to set the house on fire, telling him that, as a matter of fact, it also blows sparks at his feet. He calls out to her, questioning if it would be Oak if he asks her one question. She responds all right as he asks why does she want to take him to the Duke residence. She ponders. It is, of course, because of the quest. She knows that relationship bothers her and wonders if there are any more relationships that can get better here. She tells him because she wants to become friends with him. He asks her if they are getting any closer. He tells her that she does not have to feel pressure to teach her because he's learning just by being around her. She questions if he thinks that she will be burdened by him telling him that is just his illusion. She tells him that it is much faster to know how things going if he is by her side. He questions if that is the reason, and tells her it might be better if he does not accompany her. She asks him why is that the case. He mentions that she is the famous daughter of the only duke in the empire, and compared to him, he is just an insignificant commoner. He states that just by taking him with her, she will definitely be someone to him. She seems confused as she questions, "What does this mean?" He tells her that the fact that she is taking him to the temple is sure to make him someone to her. She asks him what is he talking about. He mentions that the aristocrats' gaze upon a commoner-born swordmaster is not flattering. The Nazo family is a prestigious swordsmanship lineage, so it will add more weight. He continues that she may have rejected their advances, preferring not to mingle with them, and although she has remained in the knightly ranks, the fact remains that they seem to want to brand him with a stamp of commoner. She seems confused as she ponders it's not simply because of her prowess in the battle. She knows that they probably fear that if she gains even more influence, it would be dangerous for them. So they are trying to undermine her and exploit her weaknesses. She ponders, the people are the same wherever one go. Even from her perspective, she is familiar with this kind of thing as many people feared and revered her from her power. But at the same time they hoped for her downfall. At times they wanted to exploit her with sweet words and gestures, and they even desired to betray her to seize her fame in this world. She's aware that it is not about her, but about the role she plays. She wonders that this one seems particularly passionate. She wonders if the priest has not seen her being avoided before. She thought that associating with someone like her, who is often called a willingness, would tarnish her reputation. But his reputation was so impressive that she made that concern seem laughable. Before departing, he tells her that he is done with the preparation as she tells him he did a good job and asks him to move on. The reputation was increased. She ponders that there is a limit to overdoing it and knows that it is ironic that someone who is doing so well, unlike the villainess, feels stifled. She wonders how could they think that they could outshine her. She's aware that usually it is the opposite. She calls out to him and questions that they say he is called the light of the empire. He tells her yes, it is true, even though he finds it embarrassing. She knows that she was thinking of just leaving it alone. But since it is getting serious, and as a senior with a similar life, she desires to say a word of advice. She tells him that even her as a noble is a disgrace to Nazo. But he is the light of the empire as a commoner. She points at him and tells him even if he is tired and fed up, he should not avoid it and be confident. She tells him that he does not need to care about anyone's opinion as it is just making fools look important, and tells him to hold his ground. If he keeps frowning, then he will get wrinkles. She tells him that since no one will care about him from now on, he does not have time to worry about those who dislike him and whom he dislikes. She tells him that he should believe in his reputation and live boldly doing what they dislike. He should have confidence in himself like she did in the old days. He currently blushes as he ponders that he feels like the annoying lethargy has lessened. She also mentions that he is her guest now, so if he does not feel at ease and carefully, then it will be awkward for her. Since they make a real housework enthusiast at home, they should not look suspicious. She's aware that, as expected, it was the right choice to take him as a mentor. His favorability has increased by 50. After boosting so much to him, just as she arrived, she ended up running into these guys. She does him, but since he decided to help her with her work for a while, they should not start a fight for no reason. Mentioning that she is telling the truth except for the priestly nonsense. He calls out to her and asks her if she even has a sense of being a lady. He tells her that not only does she come in on this terrible night, but she also brought a man into the house. She is aware that he was going to react like this. She questions if his ears are clogged. He begins to argue with her, mentioning that she's speaking in such a rude tone. She asks him to do as he pleases. She tells him to keep chirping loudly all day long and questions if he is perhaps a chick. He becomes annoyed as he curses at her. She tells him that if anyone hears, they might think that she is living as a lady, and questions, does just wearing a clean dress solve anything? She looks at the maid as she points at them, telling them that they ignore what she says as if it is nothing, and then his brother cannot even handle one little sister without getting frustrated as she points at him. She mentions that he should not treat her like a lady, but treat her like a human being at least. Her brother tells her that she is his little sister, and no matter how much she tries to act tough, she's still a lady. He mentions that no matter how much that person may be a prince, investigator, and a sword master, a commoner still is the same. She grabs his hand as he tells her that she should now go to her room. She tells him that Sidon is the only sword master in this empire. Questioning why should they care about his status, and instead of worrying about that, they should focus on learning something new and improving themselves. She tells him that if they invited such a person as a guest, then they should come running to them on their own, as those fools have empty heads, every last one of them. They got in trouble even to their families. Representative troublemaker. Her brother tells her even if that is the case, thus she thinks that she is in a position to invite anyone right now. He tells her that even if she claim innocence, how dare she bring some riffraff man into the house? She questions what is it to him telling him that she brought someone to prove her innocence, and even if he is not going to clear her name, then he should shut his trap and stay quiet. Anne's favorability has increased by 50. Kirill's favorability has increased by 20. She wonders how about that, as she knows this is something that they call a smooth-talking bond from experience. The constellations talk about finding the new hatched chick adorable. She asks if it is all her brother has to say and should they go. Her brother shouts that they cannot stay here. Kirill's favorability has increased by 20. She does seem that she is busy with the guest, so he should stop bothering her and read the newspaper tomorrow morning. And if he does come back after that, she will gladly participate in the tournament. He questioned whether she mean by the newspaper, telling that he understands nothing. Kirill mentions that this looks like a disaster and states that it is the first time that he has seen her handle things so confidently. And asks him if he trusts what he is saying. Kirill responds that even if she's crazy, if the mercenary king acknowledges her, does not that carry some credibility? He mentions that if her innocence is revealed, it would be good for their family too. Ant clenches his fist, knowing that kind of rumor is already circulating, and he is extremely uneasy, just waiting. He thinks if what she said is true, so if the only suspect disappears as well, then he wonders how can he find Leanne. The next morning begins as the sunlight is dazzling. She wakes up as she wonders if the sunlight was always this warm. She is aware that the warmth that could not fall in the tower, where only monsters roamed. She thinks that place seems to be truly over now. She is aware that Sidon must have woken up soon. She thinks since the people in that mansion do not seem likely to provide any guests, she should go and find some herself. She is aware that she has given him proper mental training, but he still seems intimidated. And she's also aware that it has been a while since someone visited, and she did not even notice someone had come. Suddenly, she has a passive skill that is both convenient and inconvenient. It is called heightened senses. Heightened senses are the passive skills which maximizes all senses to the point where she can instinctively detect the surrounding situation. In the tower, whether it is no king or whatever else, she had to leave as a gyro, always keeping her skills on with enemies rushing in from all directions. However, true to its name, the heightened senses scale meant she could not sleep deeply or enjoy meals properly. So she called this skill Beggar Maker. However, after coming to this world, she kept this skill turned off, as that is why she knew when Sidon was coming, as she received a faint warning. The reason she turned it off is simple. In this world, it seems that there is no one who can even touch the tip of her hair. King of Waves and Healing advises her not to let her guard down nevertheless. Then my Lord of Temptation laughs, mentioning that even if she lets her guard down, it will not be just a sneeze. She turns off the chat as the maids barge in. Her name is Erin and the reputation is 12. Maid's strength is 3. She ponders that her likability is off the charts, no matter when she sees it. She asks them what is going on as the maid tells her to come down. And it really bothers her how her likability is reflected in her attitude. She tells them, eats to speak as the maids begins to grin. The question if she is really asking because she does not know. Also questioning how many people does she think would be looking for her in this mansion. Besides the young master who wants to school her, they question if there are any others. She wonders that this is something else and wonders why are they so interested in this dot. She thinks of them as some ants. The maids tell her that it seems like she does not know her status. They tell her that she is not a lady, but she's a disgrace, mentioning that she cannot even handle a sword. And then he tells that she hopes she has a good personality and hopes that she also has a good reputation. Questioning, all she knows how to do is pose beautifully, right? She's aware that it is very normal to blame others, but this does not happen once or twice. She tells them that they only believe the numbers and the truth does not matter for them. She tells them that she has been thinking what should she do with them and question if she should buy them out with money or give them a good deal. She questions that it seems like power is the most important thing here, right? The maid asks her what can she even do, telling her that it is the young master who has the power, not the young lady. She questions does that mean that she is unable to before she stands up and glares at the maid, telling her that the maid does not know her yet. The maid suddenly becomes terrified and falls down to the ground. She begins to ask for help, realizing that she is unable to breathe. Rein blows her breath towards the maid, activating the skill, which puts the target into a sleep state. The maid passes out as the other maid becomes shocked. She tells them that she did not die but is sleeping. One maid begins to beg and asks to spare her. Rein tells the maid that she is boring. She ponders that yesterday she talked to Sidon lightly. In fact, she said that because, like him, she went through many times of being ignored, and when she was weak, they ignored her more than once, and when she regained her strength, she was thrown to her death. Even when she was weak and strong, there was no comfort for her. She asked me why are they so foolish, mentioning that they are so weak. So why do they bully the weak? She ponders her. After all, she was the one who used force. The constellation talks, mentioning that he supports and says that she does not have to worry about anything. She responds, status oak, as it is just a rest period. She tells them that thanks to all of them, she did not have time to get frustrated. She asks the maid where is she going as the maid trembles, telling her that she should come to the restaurant immediately. And can get ready before coming. Rein tells the maid that she will go now and the maid can take care of the maids who are asleep. She's aware that now if this news gets out, her maids will not bother her anymore. She opens the door and she mentions that she is more generous than she was in her previous life, as she finds Sidon standing outside. He mentions that he felt a bloody mood, so he went out and came here. She questions, did he really feel it? He does not seem very well as he questions if she is all right. She flinches as she questions why cannot she be oak, and if he is going to blame on her too. She tells him this is too much even for the common people. He asks her why would he do that. She does him with everyone she might hear say that it was her fault. He calls her his dear lady and tells her even now, has he treated her this way before? She tells him right and mentions it is oak. She tells him that Aunt asked her to meet him, so they should go and meet him. Meanwhile, he asks Rein to explain to her as he hits the sword on a newspaper. The newspaper is about the saint escaping at dawn. She's eating as she tells him that he is loud and asks him what is he on earth, asking her to explain again. He questions what does she mean by this article? She asked him what is there to explain. Cannot he read? And asks if he wants her to read it for him. Sidon asks him to calm down. She also tells the Duke do not make a fuss. The Duke questions how dare he speak rumors against His Majesty the Crown Prince and asks if they have ever thought about how much trouble their family would face if an article like this was published. He questions what is the position of her father and who is still in the imperial palace. Rein teases him as she grabs some meat, mentioning that he seems to be sensitive because his stomach is empty. She tells him that he can take a bite, but he refuses. She tells him that she will prove her innocence and questions. Did not he see the priest's testimony? The name was a joke, but she was not lying. The Duke questions if this testimony is truthful. Sidon responds that he is not sure as he questions is not there a good reason why His Highness, the Crown Prince, wants to bury these rumors. The Duke finds it weird and asks if he did not investigate the case in the name of His Majesty, as when he listens, he is sure that he has turned his back on this case. Sidon responds that he is not loyal to His Highness, the Grand Prince, as is Polly, conducting the investigation because it is his order as an imperial knight to uncover the truth. So he's just doing his job. The Duke questions so his leaking case evidence to his younger sister, who was accused, and asks if this is his investigation. Sidon responds, it is weird, and asks if the Duke is uncomfortable with him because he is a commoner helping his sister, or if he is comfortable with her sister charges being cleared. She seems to be surprised, knowing that he is doing a good job. The Duke mentions that he did not know that he was a friend of his younger sister, also stating that it is normal not to know because there is no such thing. He looks at Rein and tells her that he will do it now. She ponders that she heard that he feels embarrassed when he speaks. She points at her brother and tells him that it is his turn now. The Duke questions his turn. She mentions yes and asks him to apologize, questioning if he has forgotten that he was rude to her guests yesterday. The Duke apologizes to him, telling him what happened yesterday was his fault. Sidon does the deal that he does not need to apologize because there is someone else he should apologize to. Reine asks him to apologize to her too, as the Duke questions why. She tells him that he was being rude to her too yesterday and he was screaming like a gorilla. He tells her that she is also rude as because of her, their family is classified as the family that killed a saint. But even without witnesses being called, this is unfair and questions if he is that cowardly. He becomes angry as he tells her that the reason she is implicated as a suspect is because of her habitual behavior. He tells her that there is still a lack of actual evidence for the veracity of the article, and if she brings a more concrete evidence, then he will apologize to her then. She seems to be really angry. The evil blood sect master mentions that it will turn this bastard into rubble. The master of ways and healing will quietly prepare boiling water. The master of destruction prepares a magic circle to summon the demon lord. Of course, Ji is very upset as she wonders, when will this damn situation end? He tells him that he's done talking and he has eaten all the food right as it is time to get ready for the guests. She is aware that someone will be here soon. The King of Ways and Healing has informed her that the guest had set foot in this mansion. The Duke asks her if she invited someone again. She tells him this time it is a guest who came on their own feet, and, in other words, it is an intruder. His Duke asks her what did she even mean by that before the door bursts open. The butler runs inside, telling the Duke that he has got some urgent news. He whispers into his Duke ears as his Duke stands up suddenly questioning what she has done. Sidon questions if there were other guests beside him. She tells him that somehow he knows well. In Marcus, which is in the garden passage, the vicious blood priest is grumbling about why there are so many handsome guys in this world. The lot of seduction opens the back of special popcorn fried in hellfire at the appearance of Sidon's rival. She wonders why is he his rival, realizing that she got the words wrong. She knows that they finally meet. The man greets her as he is Trurine's beloved, the crown prince of the Ramdish Empire, Ishur vor Ramdish. She greets him as she tells him it is an honor to meet him. She has a feeling about him right from the start. His strength is 890 and his ability is 910. His endurance is 9/10 and his luck is 886 and wisdom is 810. She has a good feeling that the system is going to make them terribly entangled. His favorability rating has dropped by 10 as she wonders what the heck his favorability rating drops. When she just greeted him, she finds it ridiculous. She pondered if he is not going to accept her handshake, then he should just kick her out, as he should not be treating people like this. The Duke questions what brought His Majesty here as he did not even contact him. She is glad that Aunt came right on time. Ishur mentions that it is strange. Suddenly, he grabs Reine's chin as he mentions that she does not even try to hide the fact that she has changed and questions who is she. Raiden is shocked as she pushes his hand aside. She tells him to not touch her body without her permission. He asks her to not provoke him and just tell him what she wants, as she must have something to say. She is aware that he is the strongest in Empire, and realizes that still he is no match for her. Ishur looks at his hand before he clenches his fist. He mentions, it does not matter now as he is sure that she is the culprit. She is aware that he is acting up and knows this is probably too much for an ordinary person to bear, and she does not know what to do. She tells her it is not an exaggeration, it is basic right, and tells him it is about believing in and protecting his family, even if it is just once. Aunt stands in front of her. Aunt tells His Majesty that he does not think this kind of attitude is appropriate for a person who has never even learned swordsmanship. She notices that he is shaking as she realizes he is still helping her. She finds it so bad that she is also trembling. She places her hand on her brother's shoulder as His Majesty takes out his sword, questioning if they have not ever learned to use a sword and if he is telling him that someone like that is standing perfectly fine on two legs. He states that one lion disappeared. They could not confirm that the princess was the real culprit because of the report that there was no trace of her. He mentions if she is this skilled, then everything makes sense, and asks where is Lian. She responds it is none of her business, though. His Majesty questions if she's asking him to believe that. She tells him that, on the contrary, she has a question for him and questions what did he do to the saintess. He asks her, how dare she question him? He decides to take out his sword as she laughs, questioning, did the greatest sword master in the world get scared of a civilian? He launches at her before Sidon gets in the way. His Majesty tells him to get out of the way, but he responds that cannot be because he does not think that she is the criminal. The Majestic questions if he is siding with the author now, as he responds he is not siding with anyone. The Majesty states that no one in this empire hates Lian as much as he does. He shouts it in such a situation. Leon disappeared, and Rein had the power to execute her. He questions if he wants to say someone here. Sidon asks His Majesty to calm down and talk it out, mentioning that if a person of this level of skill kills someone rationally, does he not know there are more efficient ways? He tells His Majesty that he really wants to find the scientist. Then now is the time for the two of them to cooperate. Rein is aware that if Sidon had not stopped her, then she would have hit him too. She ponders. Of course, she was going to adjust her strengths. The Majesty tells her that she is suspicious to him and questions how is she going to explain that. She responds he was the one who hired the witness first. Because of that, he framed her as the culprit and she even went to jail. She tells him that she hopes he understands that she did it out of desperation. She tells him that this conversation seems like it is going to be long, so they should move over there as they are going inside. His Duke grabs onto her and tells her that she's a skilled person, so what does this mean? She tells Sidon to go as she ponders that Ant stopped His Majesty. His favorability rating is still low, and she knows that. He will not believe her with a negative favorability rating. She tells him it is none of his business, as he mentions he has the right to know if it concerns his brother. She tells him that she knows it very well and asks them when did they become too close. She thinks that he is not qualified. She uses his activation skill and puts him to deep sleep when she activates her breath of Asteloth to make Ant sleep. Ant loses consciousness and collapses onto Rein. Ishur questions, was it a magic swordsman? While Sidon cannot believe he actually got to see the young lady's abilities. She replies to the Crown Prince's earlier question that it doesn't matter now. Isn't he here to take down the article? Ishur reminds her that the situation is also important and wants her to answer properly. He questions what is that power? Has she really sold her soul to the devil? Rein raises her hand in the air in a dismissive way, taunting that she sold her soul to. This is what happened after dying about 58 times and coming back to life. Ishur's face contorts into anger as he utters, playing with words, looks like she can afford it. She believes even if she tells him, it's still gonna be a mess. He then alters his inquiry to inquire about how many types of magic she can use, adding that even if it's an energy that can withstand it, he thinks she can use the sword quite well and wants to know to what level. She asks why does she have to explain her abilities to him one by one. Moreover, she thinks he's misunderstanding something. She did not become his subordinate because the goal of finding the saint was the same. He shrugs it off and says okay, he won't ask more questions about her skills, but why did she hide it? Because he believes if it was known that she was a magic swordswoman, she would have been treated well. It would have been possible to succeed to the dukedom or receive a title and start a new family rather than treating Marcus as a shame like now. She becomes angry, thinking is he trying to say that the reason she is called a shame is because she is considered weak. The principle of the law of the jungle, the strong prey on the weak and rule over them. According to the words of the tempter, the world is crazy about the law of the jungle. The original owner of this continent was a monster. Demonic beasts reproduce faster and are stronger than humans, but humans are smart. The humans who joined hands pushed out the monsters, built walls, and created a country. Monsters were pushed out of the borders drawn by humans, and the sovereignty of the continent was taken away. In this way, the human era opened and a period of revival began. Humans stood across the border and pointed their swords at each other over the resources of a land where danger had disappeared. The role was to subdue monsters and war with humans. It was the Iramdisha Empire that grew in size by pursuing the law of the fittest. She thinks in a world where war and competition are frequent, it's also why this family has turned to power. There's also the fact that the Crown Prince prioritizes the newly minted powerhouse over his fiance. She also thinks how a young daughter is treated as a disgrace to her family because she is considered weak, and it's because of the strangeness of this world. She says, is it so if she had just revealed her powers, she could have aimed for the position of Marcus' successor? The Crown Prince adds, and he wouldn't have to face this boring ridicule. However, she lets him know she is not interested in anything His Highness said. She questions what one would do when they become the successors, and setting up a new family is just a hassle. She adds that about power and honor, she actually is really just tired. She gently nudges Ant, who is unconscious on the chair, causing both him and the chair to topple over. She claims to those who don't know how to measure a person's value other than strength, she has no intention of being treated well by them. Her eyes harden as she reminds him. He ignored her, belittled her, did not treat her like a person. She thinks it's a little bit useful, because she feels more like she has become more useful and stronger, but it's gross to think of people treating her like the palm of their hand. Ishur says just for that reason. Still sounds like she doesn't know anything about the world. She smirks and says, "What about the world?" She taunts him that she feels regret dripping from what she said earlier. What if she had agreed with him? Would he have taken advantage of her by betrothing her instead of a saint? He stands up abruptly and slams his hand on the table, his eyes ablaze with red fury and his face contorted in anger. She teases him. What? He is angry. Doesn't he think she told the truth? He turns his attention to Sidon and calls him for his rescue, however, he just feigns ignorance. She tells him not to blame Sidon and reminds him of that in the first place. Sidon didn't even square loyalty to His Highness. She also clarifies that she is not at all interested in what the relationship between His Highness and the saint was, because proving her innocence is more important to her. She sighs because she misses her dog and wants to go back quickly and see him. Her eyes widen with determination as she convinces herself to move on quickly. Oak. She tells herself to focus again. It doesn't matter if she's strong or not. She points an accusatory finger at him and tells him she is not the real culprit. She will send him an article as well. She knows the simplest way to remove suspicion of murder is borrowing the words of someone with more credibility than her. Just like the Crown Prince. He asks her, is she really innocent? But she utters rather she would like to ask His Majesty the other way, raking his hand through his hair in urgency. He questions if she thinks he is crazy. She is his finance, and why would he kill the person who would one day become the empress of the empire? She silently whispers there was a reason to kill. The saint wanted to leave him. She adds the Crown Prince is suspicious of him. She understands. She guesses the idea was to catch him first, since he had done something so far. But if his intention is to blame her for what he did, he definitely doesn't want to go along with it. She lets him know publishing the article would be a counterattack while proving her innocence, because they would have to bring out a new suspect, the Crown Prince. She declares from now on, she will check one by one to see if he's truly innocent. Why doesn't he show off his insights? Ishur's eyes blaze with intensity as he says he doesn't know where she heard such nonsense, but it's gibberish. She questions, is there a proof, because it could be true. He failed to coerce the saint who was about to leave, and all that His Highness could gain from marrying the saint would have vanished like a Midsummer Night's Dream, so in the end, he ended up killing her. His teeth clenched tightly together, a testament to the intensity of his anger. But on the other hand, she remains calm and smiles gracefully, questioning what he thinks of her hypothesis. He shouts at her, claiming that the saint has never tried to leave him. In response, she questions, is there evidence, His Highness? Because she can prove and show evidence that it's not her. His entire body trembles, his eyes blazing red with fury as he sternly warns her to listen carefully. He states, let him make it clear if there's anyone truly innocent in this world, it would be him. She observes his emotions are flowing very roughly lately, and if she were the culprit, she wouldn't fluctuate to this extent. She asks all the other people in the system, what they all think, should she trust him? But they are all sulking because of how she treated them earlier. She expresses her displeasure and says, what's with these old men? Surrender and call them cowards. She raises her hands in a shrug-it-off manner and says, fine, this will never end like this, and offers him to call a temporary truce and to take a step back. She tells him to call off his knights, and she would release his envoy. He mutters that's not within his authority. She reminds him, isn't it His Highness who's in charge of the investigation into the saint's disappearance? He sighs and says even if he takes responsibility, he needs conclusive evidence that it's not her. She thinks he's always making such a fuss. She puts a paper on the table and questions, would this suffice then? And let them know it's the last place the saint was found in. She clarifies this is the evidence that the saint was alive until recently, and isn't this more significant than anything else? She reveals it's because the reason for the saint's disappearance was the fact that she vanished from Messiah's territory, which had to become a site of unrest. She states while she was detained underground, the saint was spotted in another area. She smiles maniacally, claiming that with all that, if the saint isn't, that it means she is innocent. On the other hand, Ishur doesn't seem as pleased and demands to know where did she get this information from. She frowns because is he really just concerned about the source of information here? The King of Waves and Healing looks disappointed, wishing he had found it sooner, but Reen assures him it's not his fault. After a moment of silence, the Crown Prince states if they truly can find the traces of the saint here, the suspicion will be lifted. She reminds him they still need to verify it. However, he tells her to wait here until then. This causes her to seethe with fury as she ponders, what the hell is this guy trying to do, sneaking in an extra spoonful of information into what she has gathered? Ishur tells her it seems like she's not understanding the current situation, but even if she suspects him, she's currently the most likely suspect. She employs her magic to sear the address onto his hand. She tells him he's the one who seems to be not understanding the situation. She still believes he is the most likely suspect, and this is the information she has found herself. She smiles and says they should compromise and go together since they're both suspicious of each other. It's better than dying alone, right? Well, the Crown Prince is still shocked and wonders, was it because of her pure strength that she managed to overpower him? He questions how he can be sure that she won't stab him in the back as they walk together. She responds with another question of her own, asking, what guarantee does she have of his trustworthiness? She adds, to be honest, if she had intended to kill the saint, would she be dead by now? As he is aware of her abilities now, she raises her hand with the intention of shaking his and declares Truce agreed. He just wipes his face and thinks such nonsense. She lets him know she will shake hands for truce, but if he dares to try anything funny, she will be right behind him, ready to strike. And she will even pass on other information to the princess if he tries anything sneaky. Sidon approaches with his handkerchief and begins wiping her hand, explaining that she had just held His Highness's hand, and he wishes to clean it off. Ishur looks at them, and as she leaves, he questions since when did he become her lapdog? Sidon tells him to watch his language. He states he doesn't know what the lady promised him to suddenly change his attitude, but he will surely regret it. However, Sidon declares he regrets even briefly, following His Highness more. He adds that Rein is different from him, it would be almost disrespectful to compare them. Ishur says that sounds quite disrespectful. He says yes, exactly. Rein would not exhibit such a reaction. As he turns to leave, Ishur warns him his words seem quite sharp. He says it's just his mood. As they ride on horseback, His Highness accelerates, swiftly maneuvering next to Rene. He asks her, is everything okay? Unable to understand, she questions what does he mean. He lets her know they are out of the Messiah's territory. Confused, she questions if there is a reason why it wouldn't be okay. He reveals she is famous for never leaving the territory unless it's for a banquet. She is surprised to hear this and explains that she cannot spend her whole life confined to the territory. He says it is surprising to hear such words from her. There's nothing surprising about it, she states, reminding him he has no reason to know about her, and thinks just like she doesn't know much about Rein. She wonders why Rein has so many surprising aspects. She thought she was just a stubborn villain, but the more she knows, the more complicated she seems. He claims he knows enough about her to know that she doesn't usually wear such clothes. She never wears anything other than dresses. She tells him no, she actually prefers these clothes and feels a bit sorry for Rein for changing her taste. But honestly, Rein has been wearing dresses all this time and all the clothes she is wearing now is from Ant. Ishur wants to know if that is the case, why didn't she dress like that before? She asks, why would she? And says she will tell him now while she is at it. She doesn't love him anymore. It's better now that there's one less rotten person, right? Ishur is surprised to hear this coming directly from her mouth. She asks if he thought she would always chase after him. She lets him know once this is over, she wouldn't appear before him again, so he needs to not worry. She apologizes to Rein in her mind and lets him know that she promises she will never love him again. From now on, she will make it as if her crush on him never existed. He somehow looks angry by her determination not to love him anymore. He asks what she is going to do from now on. She doesn't understand what he means by that. He asks if she is planning to cling to someone else like she did to him. It's not Sidon, or is it? The Lord of Temptation senses a strange aura. Annoyed, she questions, what on earth is he talking about? He replies Sidon is a good knight and his subordinate, but yesterday he saw him hovering around her. Did he appeal to her pathetic sense of sympathy, or did he try to impress her by showing off his strength? She becomes mad and says she cannot figure out what he's thinking and he should focus on his own business. She crosses him and ends up being next to Sidon. Sidon smiles at her and assures her they should arrive in a few hours now. She is pissed off because it's still that long and they are going too slow. He apologizes to her, but she mutters apologies should come from that direction and glances at the prince. She believes the more time passes, the more incomprehensible it becomes, really. He questions what she means. But she just mumbles to herself, why did she ever like that brat? She wonders how she should really stay away from these kinds of people. Sidon says with utmost seriousness that if only she gives the command, he will get rid of them. She says if that's what he was going to do, he should have done it earlier. However, she realizes it sounds like treason. Are they supposed to say it? He lets her know. He follows her, not the prince. She tells him it's still going to be treason. He notices she seems anxious and says he may be overthinking it, but she seems more anxious than usual. She tries to assure him it's probably because of her overthinking and just tells him not to worry. She's fine. She activates her blessing of water skill and eliminates all accumulated fatigue from Tasingja and enhances his physical abilities. She thinks she pretended not to be, but Sidon is right, she is anxious right now. It's been quite a while since the main quest appeared and the completion of the special quest is approaching. But the epic quest which ends the possession hasn't appeared yet. The epic quest orders her to stop the tower's master who seeks to bring destruction to the world, and the master of decay is on the top floor of the tower. Clear conditions are to banish the master of decay from the top floor of the tower, and reward upon completion is being returned to the original world. The only quest that will send her back to the original world is the epic quest. She thinks maybe the genre is different, or there's a prerequisite quest to clear first. Just in case, she's moving fast, but still the quest for return hasn't appeared yet. Even if she complains, the system is still unresponsive. In times like these, she cannot help but feel overwhelmed with anxiety. The Lord of Ways and Healings believes that the system error will be fixed when the quest is completed. The Lord of Temptation suggests that to alleviate anxiety, she could try dreaming of her dog discreetly. She tells him she appreciates the sentiment, but she will pass. It seems like it might worsen the situation. The malicious leader of Blood advises that in times of anxiety, it is best to reduce thoughts and focus on physical activity. She agrees with him. Right now, she should focus on proving her innocence. Still, she cannot help but continue to think about it. She tells herself, surely she won't be stuck here forever, right? The note she had contained the name of the last location where the saint was spotted. A plain, ordinary place, neither small nor lord, somewhere it's likely to be. A knight has captured a man and informs the prince that he has caught the one who took the saint home. Rein thinks if it weren't for the prince men swarming the area, they would have found her immediately as water. What a waste of time. The man introduces himself as Durek. The crown prince points his sword at him and warns him if he doesn't want that name carved on his tombstone, it's better to speak the truth about the saint. He admits it's true that the saint stayed at their house for a while. But if it weren't for the flyer that he was just shown, he wouldn't have known it. Ishur questions why did she follow him. Does he have a patient at his house? Thinking that she might have gone there for healing purposes. He says no. He just offered to let her stay for over a day and then he trails off. Ishur asks, and what? Rein steps in between them and instructs the man to guide them to his house. He looks surprised and says his house. She says, yeah, and why is he so surprised? The man agrees to do so, but seems hesitant, his eyes lowered as if he's hiding something. When they arrive at his house, for a moment, they all remain in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the sheer opulence of his house. Rein wonders if a person who usually runs away lives in such a luxurious house. The mayor of Yu Oak requests an official appearance, but personally, he sparkles his eyes at this residence, saying it suits his taste even more. The vicious, bloody cult leader suggests seizing this house. She's annoyed because these old men are spewing nonsense again. Suddenly, a peculiar scent tickles her nose, prompting her to inquire Sidon, do he smell something strange? She says, somewhere there's a smell of something strange and familiar. Wondering if it's coming from Sidon, she smells him too and comments he smells like lavender. She concludes that there's a suspicious smell in this house. The vicious blood cult leader completely agrees and the Lord of Temptation smells corruption. She believes this must be the saint and rushes towards the direction of the house, following the increasingly potent scent. When she arrives in front of the imposing door, she realizes it's emanating from there. Just when she intends to open the door, Sidon comes from behind asking if she has formed something. The prince appears too and warns her it might be a bit tricky if she acts on her own. She urges them to hurry. There is something. When Sidon comes next to her, he smells it too and says, is it just him or is it? He trails off, but the prince confirms his suspicion when he declares it is a corpse. The prince is on his knees, grieving as he claims it's not him. He doesn't know anything about it. Sidon still feels the warmth from the ashes. Rein claims it takes 2 to 3 hours to completely burn a person. Judging by the heat emanating from the corpse, it burned approximately 20 minutes ago. She is mad because when the corpse was burning, they were wandering around the village. It was a very close call. She believes if Ishur hadn't brought the knights and if she had acted alone, perhaps she could have saved her. The famous bloody professor says if he had done that, the quest would have gone wrong for her. The Queen of Waves and Healings comforts her, saying she did nothing wrong. She sighs and thinks she doesn't know what will happen to the quest. But it's not just a matter of a quest. It's about human lives. Sidon questions if it is the body of the saint. Rein doesn't know, but she could feel the holy power from that corpse. People with holy powers are rare. If one possesses such strong holy power, it remains even after death. She looks at the corpse. It looks so twisted and horrible. It hasn't been long since she burned, probably during the time when she rode with these two from the territory. Even though this proves that the saint was alive until just recently. The prince silently whispers why was she killed. What could she have possibly done wrong? He states this is the engagement ring he gave to her. Rein inquires if he is sure. He reveals he cannot be mistaken because he personally ordered it. The ring is enchanted with the highest grade protective spell. It can never be destroyed by ordinary external forces, so that's why only the ring remains. Special quest explanation is cleared. The clear condition is to prove innocence. Clear reward is to be able to make one wish to the crown prince. The system lets her know the quest is able to be completed despite someone's death. The Queen of Waves and Healing comforts her, but she assures her it's because she has seen many people burn to death. The owner of the tower also enjoyed burning people. If her colleagues were caught, there was only one side to be seen by midnight. The sight of her comrades burning to death at the top of the tower and below the madness of monsters dancing. She realizes that's why this smell felt familiar to her. It's the scent she smelled to the point of getting tired of it in her past life. Rein and Sidon's attention turns towards the side. Derek mentions that it is unfair as the saint left at dawn. The crown prince questions. Then he should explain whose corpse is that. The crown prince has grabbed him from the collar as Derek states he does not know either and asks the crown prince to listen to him for a moment. The crown prince lifts him up as he asks for help. Sidon intervenes, asking the crown prince to come down. Derek states that he hasn't even been confirmed as the culprit yet. Ishur is filled with annoyance as he pushes Derek, but Sidon catches him. Sidon gets down on one knee as he asks what time did the saint leave yesterday. Derek responds that she left early yesterday morning without saying a word and mentions what he is saying is true. Rein calls out to Sidon and asks if he can please leave for a moment. He asks her if she is intending to interrogate him herself. She responds yes and asks Sidon to make sure no one comes in, including the crown prince. She then calls out to Derek and mentions that from now on he's going to be honest very, very much. She activates a skill, which is the Whisper of Belial. This puts the target in advance. The effectiveness is inversely proportional to the target's mental resistance and, if interrupted during casting, the effect becomes unstable. She thinks that this skill is convenient, but there is a big risk if they choose the wrong target. That is why she cannot use it on someone as big as Sidon. She commands him to think about his last memory with the saint. He states that all he sees is darkness. She ponders that she thinks this guy will work well. He also states that he sees strong resentment too. She smirks, realizing that it seems like he has already been hit with a similar skill. Derek calls out to her and states that he cannot feel her holy power. She questions what as he states, this is not holy power, it is dark magic. She ponders that she is aware of that too, as a saint would not have gotten this far with just one demon. However, she thinks the fact that she can use skills related to demons, which are difficult to find, indicates that a skilled individual is involved for sure. She wonders about exactly who and what they're aiming for by committing such acts. The Queen of Waves and Herring raises her hand as she questions what is wrong. The Queen of Waves and Herring says that the Crown Prince is now trying to destroy evidence. Rein seems annoyed as she rushes to him. She calls out to him and mentions that he probably has something to say to her. Doesn't he? He questions what is she talking about. She argues that she slams the table, mentioning about the saint's will, stating that it was found. The Queen of Waves and Healing witnessed it through the eyes of the spirits. He questions if she has a spy within his knighthood. She responds no, they should just say it was a keen intuition. He tells her that her behavior cannot be simply explained by a keen intuition. He takes out his sword. As he mentions, it is clear that she is colluding with his knights or keeping an eye on him. He smiles before he places his sword at her neck. He tells her he does not like either option. She smirks, questioning what can he do. If he were in her position, he probably would have done the same as she did. He states that he has never been in her position though, causing her to be annoyed. He tells her that the reason he did not show her the will was to protect her. She responds that it is quite bold of him to say that it is for her sake. He wonders if she can remain nonchalant after reading this as he hands her the will. She takes it away from him as it is written that during that time her life was stained like a white cloth for the mission for the Empire and for those who trust her. She couldn't say anything until now, but she cannot bear it any longer. She continues to read it as it is said a false engagement with someone who does not love her, someone who wants to kill her because of that engagement. These two facts began to gnaw at her soul. But even so, she was able to forgive those two people. No matter how much they hurt her, she can willingly love them. However, there was someone she could not forgive. The one being swayed by the situation is none other than her. Therefore, before Rein clenches her fist, she mentions that they are done for as they have boarded a sinking ship now. And that ship is sinking completely. He states that he has no idea what she's talking about. She yells at him, questioning, what is he saying? If the world finds out about this accusation, he and she both are finished. She is aware her quest, too, will be finished. Her main quest, which told her that she has now possessed the body of Reincarnates, the infamous daughter of the highest-ranking martial artist in the Lamdisa Empire. Her clear conditions were to reach fame, clear reward. She is aware that sub-quests had a couple of failures without significant consequences. But for the main quest, the aftermath of failure is unpredictable. Moreover, the clear reward is the item she needs most right now. She's aware that she has been so careful in trying to follow the original novel. She knows that she has not the time to carefully step on a stepping stone. She's the type to break it. Lord of Temperatures asks if breaking the stepping stone would not actually make things worse. She ponders, as she expected. Things are about to go downhill soon, and she needs to do something about it. The Crown Prince tells her that as long as she keeps quiet about it, there would not be any leaks. She trembles as she continues that this is not something Lion would do, as Lion was so stubbornly attached to him. She mentions that someone must have intervened and manipulated this and asks if he still does not feel a sense of crisis. She wonders, and that too by a skilled individual with ill intentions towards Lion and the Crown Prince. He tells her that all his knights are tight-lipped and he will not announce anything about the corpse until he can confirm if it is really Lion. She looks at him as she wonders if he has a brain in his head. She points at him as she mentions, if he is so confident about it, then how about he makes a bet? The bet about whether the contents of this will spread or not. He smirks as he questions if she wants to bet in the current situation. She asks, is it only him who does not understand the current situation? Why is he so confidently seeking help without believing in anything? She tells him that this is a trap set up to frame both him and her questioning. Is not that the case, she tells him, because His Majesty hid the will and believes in the knights. She asks if he really thinks all of this will go as planned. She turns around as she states that. She assures him it will not be long before the entire empire learns about this will. He tells her it seems even if he were to die soon, this will continue to spread. Questioning what exactly does his knights receive about this, she again tells him to make a bet as he should trust his own knights, stating that she will trust her own experiences. He mentions that he accepts the bad, and if he wins then, she should follow his words without objection, and even though it is unlikely. But if by chance she wins, then she states that they should make it so that His Highness follows her words. She tells him, who does not seem like it will take long. As she states, there they come, the knightly order in his favor. He is surprised as the knights appear, since mentioning the will of the saint is currently being distributed throughout the entire empire. She has been known as an indirect murderer of the saintess, and her reputation has decreased by 50. The knights look upon her with eyes of distrust. The commoners of the empire are remembering about her suspicions. She is aware that she won the bet, but she's not happy at all. A subquest is given, which is one body in a board. She has cleared her name of the murderer of the saintess, but she is soon caught up in another misunderstanding. She and Isher will be known as the perpetrators who drove the saintess to her death, and to overcome this crisis, she must cooperate with Escher and gain his trust. The clear condition is to receive the token of trust from Escher. She ponders that these surely are some odd quests. The Malaysian bloodthirsty rat priest looks at her with eyes full of sympathy, and the king of waves and healing is eager to embrace her tightly. The Lord of Temptation wants her to be his. She is aware that as soon as Lion's will was made public, she returned to the mansion as if fleeing. Sidon and Escher both told her to go back. She finds that very harsh, and above all she looks around and wonders why does she have to receive such looks for something that she did not even do. She knows that Sidon also went to the palace to try to rectify the situation. Only punishing quests or giving orders to kill a quest where she has to clear up this misunderstanding. She finds it really frustrating. Someone knocks on the door questioning if he can come in. She questions if it is Krill and invites him in. He steps inside the room as he asks her what is she doing. He complains that her brother just came in and she's just lying there so indifferently. She questions what should she do and asks him to say whatever he has to say from there. He tells her that first of all the murder charges against her husband dropped, and father informed him. She questions, so what now, even though other charges have arisen. He also tells her that their entire family is coming up to the capitals, and it looks like they're planning to force their way through. He tells her to get ready. As she rises, she ponders, forcing their way through. She likes the sound of that. She tells him that he does not seem that angry, though. He asks her if she is angry. She tells him she is not as much as Aunt. He had told her that she's good at this, as it is a skill to have all these new charges piled up like this. The malicious, bloodthirsty priest suggests that he will secretly strike down that noisy chick. He mentions that is because he likes Leon. Rein is shocked as she questions Aunt with the saint. He responds she knew that too, that Aunt has been in a one-sided love with her for 10 years. She ponders that Rein probably knew it. He questions how she could forget that, and states that is why Aunt specially scolded her more. Krill asks her to stop bothering Lion a bit. She ponders. That is right, is not it? Still, she wonders if it is not overreacting to think that her own younger brother committed a perfect crime. She thinks that he really fell deeply in love. She suddenly mentions, wait a moment, as she remembers something. She states, but the saint was engaged to the crown prince, which means that their brother is not even a potential match for her. Realizing that there must have been complicated circumstances, she wonders, so how do they resolve Aunt's situation this time? She is aware that the quest is saying that these accusations are all misunderstandings. Aborted and wonders, is it a misunderstanding that Rein has been bothering her all this time, or is it a misunderstanding that the saint died? She calls out to Krill and questions if he also thinks that she killed the saint. He responds that he does not think she would have directly killed her. She mentions but still she wrote in the will that she was having a hard time because of her, so it is almost as if she died because of her. She mentioned so in the end, she is the one who killed her as her mood becomes sad. Grill tells her that she has been really strange lately as her memory getting worse does not help either. He states that he does not know what. It does not seem like a matter of intelligence, but her temperament does seem a bit deadened. She tells him that a person died, so it is natural for tempers to die. Is that not supposed to be a case? He becomes frustrated telling her there she goes exactly this kind of remark. That is what is really strange about her nowadays. He also tells her, and above all, she never really intended to kill the saint. She questions what does he mean by this before she suddenly grabs onto him, telling him to tell her more. She questions what is he saying as he states those assassin. She did not send them, it is just known that she didn't. She wonders the person who sent assassins to the saint. It is not her right. He asks her why does she keep on pretending to not know as she tells him to forget about it. She questions if it was not her, then who sent them? Does he know about it? The saint is like a guardian of the empire. Wouldn't it make sense for someone with a grudge against the empire or the emperor to want everyone to die together? Among them, there may be extreme supporters of the princess who would rather see the empire fall than see the crown prince ascend the throne. She questions if he is sure that it was not her. He tells her that if she was smart enough to send assassins, everyone would know if she were a person from the Cham of his family. She tells him that when it comes to Lion, he loses her mind, and that is why he locked her up and interrogated her. She yells, then why is it known that she sent them? He tells her that she seated herself at the party, that she sent assassin, and that she's such a dangerous person, so they should be careful. She questions why did she do that. As he responds, how would he know? She begins to hate him as she questions. Cannot he or Aunt shut their mouths as older brothers? mentioning if she were not knave, they both should have made efforts. The seducing Lord warns that the sword under her pillow is sharp. The King of Waves and Healing is preparing to heal Kirill. She ponders that according to Kirill's, Rein has twisted someone else's sin onto himself. Having been constantly ignored at home for being weak, she must have been afraid of being ignored, even outside. And that she knows that she is someone so frightening that she can kill a saint who was loved by all. So they should not treat her lightly. She's a strong person. She wonders if this is what she wanted to assert. The malicious, bloodthirsty priest mutters under his breath. The King of Waves and Healing lets out a regretful sigh. The seducing lord bites his tongue. She is aware the more she does start, the more she will isolate herself, and she just seems like a physically grown child raised without even properly learning how to protect oneself like a child. Krill asks her, but why is she so strong, as he thought it was a sword to the throat, not a pillow? Kirill affinity has increased by 30 points. She finds it seriously distracting. She calls out his name as she tells him that they should try to make things right now, even if it is late. He questions if he is included before she smacks him on the head, telling him that he is also at fault. He complains. What did he do wrong? When she's the one causing all the trouble. She tells him charge of neglect and the charge of miscounting a woman. She tells him that he knew how she was being treated in this household. She ponders. Seems like he knows what he has done, and that is probably why he even came here to tell her himself. She puts him on the head as she wonders. Well said. There seems to be a room for redemption. He launches out at her, telling her why she's all of a sudden treating him like a child. She tells him to just be grateful and states, but still he has to take responsibility. And they will take responsibility and resolve this matter. They will be the one to set things right, so from now on he also has to watch over her. As her older brother, he questions as her older brother as she responds. Yes, as they are a family after all, even though they were at odds before. But from now on, something like that, even if they fall, they should at least try. And someday she will return to her former self with his help. Anytime, knowing that she can rely on him to straighten out this household without any regrets. At the townhouse of the Marquis Magritte family in Ramas, the capital of the Ramdish Empire. She gets a déjà vu as she wonders why the room is as big as Marquis's mansion. She locks the door as she is aware the room is not important right now, and decides to move on with what she's doing. The King of Waves and Healing hands her something they found. She thanks the King of Waves and Healing. She remembers that hearing Kirill's words reminded her of something. She ponders people with as many grievances as Rein need a place to pour out their hearts. But since Rein had no one around, she ponders, would not there be something in a diary instead? She is aware that she was treated too much like a notorious villain, and she had not thought that Rein might not have sent the assassin. If it were not for that mistress, she might have thought of it sooner. She wonders, but where was that? The King of Waves and Healing testifies that it was under the mattress. She questions just there. It's a wonder it was never found. She questions it did nobody clean there at all. She opens it as she has tears in her eyes, wishing that she will make sure Rein walks on a flower path. She decides to start with the most recent one. It is questioned why does nobody believe what she said. She never laid a hand on Leon. Even her father says he believes her, but she can feel that he does not. She thinks that it seems to be warm before she was imprisoned and decides to look at something's older. Another one is that this girl Tolger keeps talking to her. She got so angry at being ignored that she lied without thinking, wondering what should she do. She should not have done that at that time. She should not have said that she was the one who sent poison to the saintess. But if she did not, it seemed like Talia would look down on her. Guess what kind of person is she? She keeps provoking and egging on Rein. She decides to focus on Lion first. Leon is really annoying, always pretending to be nice. Yesterday, she said that she wanted to have tea with her, so she only had one cup and left. She went hoping to at least see her face, but as expected, it was annoying. Leni brought a cake she made, saying she tested her new oven. She said she knows she's not the one who sent the assassin. Wondering what does she know, she said that she was too busy to send one and Lion laughed. Rein wondered why does Isher like such a person. She seems so foolish in the end, she could not refuse Lion's request to meet again today. But they decided to meet secretly in case Isher finds out and scolds them. And wishing no one heard their conversation right. Another one is written that Shinjin is suspicious. She thought it was strange since he tried to touch her last time. It seems like the temple is completely corrupt. She ended up getting angry at Lion and realizes she should not have done that. She thinks that she got frustrated because the dog kept insisting on staying there. She wonders why cannot she make such a convincing argument. She suggested confiding in Isher, but Lian refused. She knows Isher does not love her and he will not oppose Shinjin for her. Rein closes the book and wonders what should she do now, as well as she thinks what is going on. She's aware that if this diary is to be believed, then the situation changes completely. She knows Lian knew that Rein had not attempted the assassination. She knows. In fact, Renee and Lian were each other's only friends, though she doubted it. Rein really was just a child without a temple. People just wanted to believe she was a willingness and wonders. Is that the reason why she came here? Among so many people, there was no one to help her, she and Lian, because the evil she too could not possibly stop on their own was too great. She wonders where on earth has Lian disappeared to, wishing for someone to help them. She wonders who would try to harm such young children. Sitting idly by and just thinking won't help her find the culprit. She's aware that she currently lacks too much information about this world, and there are many ways to gather information, and the most important thing is to know where to dig in. The main quest is that she is now possessed by the notorious villainess and the distinguished daughter of the Marquis Magritte family in the Ramdish Empire. The clear condition is to reach a reputation of 500. So, above all, completing this quest and finding the original story is the priority. She is having a cup of tea as Krill questions if this is for real. She responds, "Yes, all of this for real." She is aware that showing the diary to Krill was a kind adventure. She wonders if he did not believe, even after reading the diary. She was thinking of convincing him by force, but she knows that will not be necessary. He asks her why did she only tell him now. She questions would he have believed her. He tells her of course he would, but she's aware that he would not have believed. She ponders. At least he has some consciousness now. He tells her that he does not fully believe it yet, but he will try to believe her for now. He asks her to not get him wrong. He has not forgive her for disgracing their family name. He states that his only goal is to clear their family's dishonor. She calls out to him as she mentions he is not very honest. She tells him to come down and sit back down as she forces him. He wonders what kind of strength is that as he finds her really strong. She thanks him for finally believing her. She is aware that if he had believed her sooner, many things would have been different. She is also aware that the one who should be apologizing is not her, so from now on, she will just have to be satisfied with this. She states that she is aware it is still hard to believe everything, so she should prove her words by hosting a party. He tells her the kind of party that she is talking about can only be held by his father or elder brother, and at best he can only host a tea party or a small gathering. She asks him why is that the case. As he questioned why is she asking, she tells him that she is from the Marcos family, so why would not it be possible? He does her daughters because father favors his brother more than them. He states anyway, even his brother cannot just hold one whenever he wants. Father dislikes wasting money, so there has to be a significant occasion where it needs to be a birthday to have a party. He states that she knows this too. Then why is she asking it again? She is aware that the scale of the party Rein asked Kirill for was like this. Not only the promotion nobles and regional lots, but also influential minor nobles could attend. In other words, a party where as many people as are possible can attend and see her. She is aware that with the rumors about her might die down a bit and questions how significant does the occasion needs to be to convince him. He tells her to try entering the top level of sword experts. If it is that, then father would gladly agree. She asks him, but why have not he had one? He tells her because he's only intermediate. She calls out to him as she questions he honestly hates Ant. Does not he, she states, that she will give that Ant guy a piece of her mind. Carole Magritte's favorability towards her has increased by 10. She ponders. This guy really wears his thoughts on his face as he questions. How is she going to do that? She smirks as she states she can do it. He finds it strange, wondering why does he feel a chill down his spine as if he is facing a demon. The Lord of Temptation smiles wickedly. She tells him that he could just do that top-level thing or whatever. The King of Ways and Healing shakes their head in disapproval, and the cruel blood priest looks at the victim and licks their lips. In the evening, murmurs spread among the gathered guests. One of them mocks that even if the rich go bankrupt, they can still maintain their wealth until the third generation. It seems evident that the Marcus family, whom they know well, must be swimming in money. Another guest notices a couple dancing. It is none other than Isher and Rein. A woman in the group smirks, finding it ridiculous that the Marcus family continues to protect their own kind. She questions whether they are unaware of the rumors swirling in the capital. The group laughs, amused at the thought that the true protagonist of the party believes the event is actually about them. Technically, this gathering is meant to celebrate the Marcus family's recent achievement, reaching the highest level of sword expertise. It was the Marcus family that defeated the former vice commander of the Imperial Guard, who was known to be a top-tier warrior. When questioned, the former vice commander himself admitted that Karol Marcus was even purer in his swordsmanship than he had been. However, when people directly asked the Marcus family how Karol became so strong, they receive only one strange answer: to ask his brother. No one knows if this statement holds any truth, but it is the reason why so many have gathered here today. Some wonder if the Crown Prince's presence is also linked to this rumor. As Rein and the Isher continue their dance, Sidon watches them from a distance. Karol, standing beside him, points out that the situation is about to become interesting. Observing Sidon's demeanor, Karol questions whether he has any particular interest in his sister. Sidon, looking visibly gloomy, causes Karol to wonder if he dislikes the idea that much. Dismissing the thought, Karol jokingly tells him he was only kidding. Changing the subject, Sidon congratulates Karol on becoming a top-tier sword expert. Karol humbly responds that his strength was not achieved through his efforts alone. It was all thanks to Rein. He then questions whether Rein has ever told Sidon about that. Sidon, confused, asks what exactly he means, but before Karol can respond, a group of people rushes toward him. The crowd surrounds Karol, excitedly praising how incredible it is that he has already reached such a prestigious level in swordsmanship. Growing nervous from the overwhelming attention, Karol asks them to step back, but they continue pressing in on him. Unfamiliar with such a situation, he decides to escape, running off from the crowd. Meanwhile, Sidon remains standing there, deep in thought. He wonders if the rumors are actually true. Was Karol's rapid growth truly all thanks to Rein? The idea of such a secret, one that allows someone to grow so strong in such a short period, is something he has never heard of before. He cannot help but wonder what Rein is thinking and wishes she would tell him the truth. Suddenly, a voice behind him interrupts his thoughts. Someone asks if he is enjoying the party. It is none other than Rein. He tells her that rumors are spreading rapidly and that all the prestigious families have gathered here tonight. In this situation, whatever she says will garner immense interest. This is good news, but Rein knows that mere interest will not be enough. The title she bears, the killer of the saint, the pretender, the ultimate villain, the possessor of rare information, has made her the center of attention. She plans to use this moment to her advantage. Slamming her foot onto the floor, she declares that from now on, she will take control of the situation. She knows that the spectacle must be grand enough to shock everyone if she wants to overturn her reputation in a single move. Sidon attempts to speak to her, but before he can, the Crown Prince approaches from behind, commenting that he has finally found her. He playfully remarks that everyone has been asking where his beautiful partner had disappeared to. He is so cheesy. Rein immediately scolds him for his nonsense. Sidon, gripping his wine glass tightly, tells Rein that she can leave. He will stay behind and hold his ground. Before walking away, Rein assures him that she will return. The Crown Prince places his hand on Rein's waist, reasoning that it is necessary for the success of their operation. Rein finds this absurd, demanding that he remove his hand before she breaks his fingers. Sidon, watching the exchange, remembers when Rein once told him that people like them live shamelessly, believing in their own reputations and boldly doing things that others dislike. In the past, her attitude had put his mind at ease, but now it only makes him uncomfortable. Standing there in silence, he looks down, reflecting on his choices. He has never regretted refusing noble titles before, but at this moment, an unfamiliar feeling lingers. Later, Rein raises a toast, thanking everyone for coming and celebrating Karol, the new glory of the Marcus family. The room is filled with intense gazes, some filled with desire, others with suspicion. Amidst the lively atmosphere, Rein can clearly sense the mocking glances from those who criticize her for their own amusement. She silently challenges them, waiting to see how long their laughter will last. However, before that, she plans to answer the question everyone is curious about. One of the men in the crowd suddenly claims credit for Karol's growth, and immediately, others start pointing at themselves, insisting that they were responsible. Seeing their desperation, Rein provokes them further, urging them to share the so-called secret if they know it. However, she points out that valuable knowledge is scarce and should not be given away so easily. The crowd murmurs in agreement, acknowledging that a secret of this caliber cannot simply be disclosed. However, they demand to know how they can believe her words. Rein clarifies that she is not saying she will monopolize the secret. She simply wants something in return, something that proves its true value. The crowd presses her, asking what exactly she seeks. With a calm yet deliberate tone, Rein declares that what she desires is the truth. From the crowd, a young woman steps forward, questioning what truth Rein is referring to. Rein immediately recognizes that she has achieved her goal. She has drawn out the person she was aiming for. Talia Cypress, the daughter of Viscount Cypress, mocks Rein's condition, calling it broad and abstract. Rein realizes that Talia had been watching everything from the shadows, only now choosing to reveal herself. This woman appears repeatedly in Rein's diary, yet not everything written there tells the full story. Rein recalls the documents Sidon once gave her, documents that revealed Talia as the person who had turned her into the most despised villain in the Empire. It is no surprise. After all, red-haired girls are baddies. Rein, keeping her composure, asks Talia what exactly she wants to say. With a smirk, Talia implies that despite Rein's words, she has no true intention of sharing the secret. Then, without hesitation, she makes a bold claim, declaring that if she were to say Rein was the one who attempted to assassinate the saint, would anyone believe her? The crowd stirs and Isher, standing nearby, attempts to intervene, but Rein stops him. She calmly asks Talia if she intends to stain the honor of the Marcus family while standing within their estate. Until now, Rein has been taken advantage of in such situations, but tonight, things are different. Talia, still smirking, mocks Rein, remarking that it is surprising to see her suddenly care about her family's honor when she is known as the disgrace of House Marcus. She wonders if Rein will refuse to accept the truth this time as well. However, Rein does not falter. Smiling coldly, she prepares herself for battle. She is not about to lose a verbal duel to a mere newborn. Rein replies that Talia's point makes sense, but the truth is also abstract. Depending on who receives it, it can turn into a lie. However, Rein has no intention of changing the condition, as it would not be fun to give away the secret for free. Talia, clearly irritated, senses that something is off. One of the men questions whether any truth would be acceptable. Rein responds that she will judge whether it is satisfying, and if it is despicable, then what would she do? After all, value comes from rarity. In that sense, she concludes that his truth is not satisfactory, and he is disqualified. Talia senses that this is not the real Rein. She has changed completely. Rein challenges the crowd to try harder. The murmuring among the attendees grows, uncertainty filling the air. Witnessing the commotion, Isher claps his hands to quiet them down. He had not intended to interfere in the Marcus banquet, but listening to this from the beginning, he finds it all rather rude. Talia, feigning innocence, claims she had no intention of offending him, but then points out that even he must have suspicions about Rein. After all, she is one of those who adored the saintess, so how could she stand by and let people deceive him once again? Her anger flaring, she accuses Rein of attempting to assassinate the saintess simply because she was the crown prince's fiancée. She further claims that the scene of Rein and the crown prince together might be another deception. The crowd, already filled with doubt, quickly echoes her words, arguing that Rein's past cannot be erased so easily and that the so-called secret could very well be a lie. The same people who were desperate to uncover the secret just moments ago now turn against her with ease, showing how low Rein's reputation truly is. Isher, unable to endure anymore, steps forward and announces that the body found was not Leanne's, it was all fabricated. He had not planned to reveal this here, but with the rumors running rampant, he had no choice but to set the record straight. A stunned silence overtakes the crowd. If this is true, then what does it mean? Isher further explains that the royal magician examined the body and confirmed that the hair was black, whereas everyone knows that Lion's hair is light brown. The suicide note, too, was fabricated to slander Rein. The real culprit took advantage of someone who had already gone missing. Talia, trembling with rage, demands to know who, then, was responsible. Rein states that, unfortunately, she has yet to capture the true mastermind. However, if the person who orchestrated this went so far as to burn an innocent person alive, then they are undoubtedly connected to Lion's kidnapping. The crowd struggles to comprehend the implications of this. After all, the saintess was a cherished figure in the Empire. Rein herself does not understand why someone would go to such lengths, but she is certain that the person who tried to kill Lian would know the answer. Talia, still unwilling to back down, shrieks that it must have been Rein. Narrowing her eyes, Rein turns her gaze toward her and calls out her name, Talia Cypress. She then declares that the one who has been sending assassins after Lian is none other than Talia herself. Talia, despite being the daughter of a count's family, had always been envious of Lian. Like her, Lian was a noble lady, but unlike her, Lian was chosen by Balua as the saintess. Talia had been born with magical abilities, making her one of the few noble ladies of her generation to possess such talent. Naturally, she had attracted admiration and attention, but all of that changed in an instant with the birth of the Empire's saintess. The admiration she once received vanished as quickly as melting snow. Talia resented Lian deeply. Even Lian's gentle and humble nature felt like an insult to her, an unbearable display of arrogance. While Talia saw herself as the rightful center of attention, the people only cared about venerating Lian as the saintess. When the universally beloved saintess announced her engagement to the crown prince, Talia's jealousy twisted into something even darker. It was as if her insides were being wrenched apart. However, she knew the consequences of acting against the crown prince's fiancé, so she looked elsewhere. When she first heard the rumors about Rein, Talia was fascinated. The infamous villainess, the only daughter of the Empire's Duke family, a woman who dared to defy the crown prince's authority. Rein was the perfect villainess, the kind of woman Talia admired. But when she met Rein in person, she found nothing but a coward pretending to be strong. Feeling betrayed by her own expectations, she decided to act in accordance with her nature. She pinned everything she had done onto Rein, ensuring that all of Rein's crimes would be blamed on her. Harassing the detestable Lian while burying Rein, 2 birds, 1 stone. That was how Talia had lived. But now, confronted by Rein, she finds herself speechless. Talia scoffs at Rein's accusations, calling them absurd and demanding evidence. Rein, unfazed, states that the evidence is standing before her, every single person in this hall. A murmur runs through the crowd as their gazes sharpen, scrutinizing Talia. Leaning forward, Rein reminds Talia of the secret she promised to reveal, the truth that could elevate someone to the rank of a top-tier sword expert. One of the men in the crowd tries to mutter-say something. 'Tis the exhilaration of overturning an underestimated opponent, of shattering boredom completely, and the emergence of a kindred spirit. Talia stares at Rein, a strange admiration flickering in her eyes. Rein, noticing this, wonders if Talia is a pervert for looking at her like that. From a distance, Ishur watches the scene unfold. Unlike before, Rein is now able to suppress her opponents without even blinking. When he first allied with her, he never expected her to be this useful. A few days ago, near the Sidon's forest, Rein reminds Ishur of their bet, just as she had declared that she would make it known far and wide. Now, all the citizens are aware of it, and she insists that it would be best if he simply follows through with her words. She tells him that he would assist her in her endeavor, and in return, she would help him ascend to the throne. Ishur acknowledges that she has grown wiser than before, but he questions how he can trust her. This response angers Rein. How could he still act so coy after losing the bet? Without hesitation, she draws her sword, unleashing a surge of sword energy. In a single stroke, the trees of the forest fall, cut cleanly apart. And yet, she had not even used her full strength. Ishur looks back, stunned, unable to comprehend who she truly is. She sighs, signaling him to stop his surprise and give her an answer. He concedes that he can help clear her name, but to him, she is still not entirely trustworthy. Hearing this, Rein considers dismissing their cooperation altogether. However, Ishur adds that since he has lost the bet, and because she is Lian's friend, he is willing to trust her this once. Rein, now curious, questions how he came to know about her friendship with Lian. Ishur explains that it was thanks to a letter discovered during the investigation. Lian had hidden it away safely, but it was only found belatedly. At first, Ishur had been confused as to why Lian would defend Rein, but now, knowing they were friends, it all makes sense. Rein, however, points out that irony. Despite knowing this, he still suspected her. Ishur justifies his doubts, stating that her past record was far too flamboyant, especially regarding the assassination attempt. She immediately refutes the accusation, arguing that she had nothing to do with it. Still, Rein counters that with such an argument, it is difficult for her to trust Ishur as well. After all, he had framed her for murder and for hiding a witness. Ishur, irritated, points that now he is willing to trust her. So what is the problem? Rein is unimpressed. Seeing his attitude, she trusts him even less and demands that he offer her a token of trust. Only then will she be able to place her trust in him as well. Ishur, confused, hesitates, and Rein contemplates the situation. She knows it is an odd request, but still yells internally if he can at least manage to keep his expression neutral. It was all due to that damn quest. These so-called tokens of trust have been kept so vague that she has no choice but to blindly push forward. Frustrated, she asks him to give her anything as proof. Ishur acknowledges her demand, admitting that he does have something in mind, but he cannot give it to her just yet. Rein sighs, impatient, as when that time will come. Ishur explains that first, they must cooperate as much as possible. Only when a certain level of trust has been built between them will he hand over the token. Rein, annoyed, recognizes that he is dragging things out by adding yet another condition. Ishur, however, points that the only reason he even agreed to trust her was because she was Lion's friend. Still, Ishur assures her that he will make an effort to trust her properly. Rein mockingly thanks him for this small favor. In conclusion, they reaffirm their agreement. She will assist Ishur in becoming the emperor, and he will help her with her endeavors. Once trust has been established, he will give her the token. Extending her hand, she proposes they seal the deal. Ishur sighs, but after a brief moment of hesitation, takes her hand. It is a deal. Rein observes that they all seem to be having a hard time of affirming the truth, so she decides to suggest something to them. She commands that evidence of the attempted assassination of the saintess be brought forward. The floor was open for everyone. She points anyone with knowledge of an assassination attempt should come forward. However, she makes it clear that claims must be supported by solid evidence, as she will not tolerate false accusations made out of greed for the secret technique. Rein is aware that very few people will have actual evidence, even if they have heard rumors. But she knows that planting doubt in their minds will be enough. Eventually, someone will claim to have proof, such as human nature. Talia steps forward, seemingly exasperated, and questions Rein's logic. Until now, Rein had been the one accusing her of sending assassins after the saintess. Has she suddenly forgotten? With a sigh, Rein acknowledges that the situation has now taken an unexpected turn. She shifts her gaze toward Ishur, realizing she has no other choice left. Without hesitation, she grabs Ishur's hand and activates her skill, Mask of Asmodeus, beginning her act. She feigns distress, claiming that she was forced into this situation because Talia blackmailed her. Talia, taken aback, demands to know how a mere daughter of a count could possibly blackmail the esteemed lady of a duchy, especially the iron-blooded duchess herself. Ishur steps in, stating that such a thing is possible only if Talia had discovered a weakness. He dismisses it as petty, but his words only leave Talia more confused as she struggles to understand what she has supposedly done. Placing a hand on Rein, Ishur elaborates, claiming that Talia must have used his contract engagement with Lion as an excuse, exploiting the fact that he loves Rein as her weakness. The crowd begins to murmur at this unexpected revelation, while Talia, utterly bewildered, screams in frustration. Rein silently appreciates Ishur's acting skills, realizing how well he is selling the story. To ensure everyone follows the sudden shift in narrative, she decides to take them back to the events of the previous evening, inside the Marcus family's drawing room. That evening, Ishur had understood that he needed to help clear Rein's name, but he still wondered why he had to go to such lengths. In response, Rein had grown frustrated, snapping at him about the poisoned wine. Could he not see that her reputation was crumbling before their eyes? He had questioned whether she truly intended to use such drastic means, knowing the wine was poisoned. If rumors about them being lovers spread, it could indirectly lead to an accusation of them conspiring to kill Lian. Rein had acknowledged the risk but insisted that there was no other way. The current situation could not be overturned with a simple explanation. Nobles, who valued strength above all else, could be convinced by the promise of a secret technique, but the general public, still gripped by anxiety over the saintess's disappearance, required a different approach. A new villain had to be introduced, one who was not Rein. Ishur had understood her reasoning but found it reckless to involve a third party in a scandal, believing there was no need to fabricate a story. However, Rein had countered that rumors already suggested she was the only one with unrequited feelings for him. Due to the contents of the political marriage letter, People were speculating that their relationship was more than it appeared, while nobles, having witnessed how coldly Ishur treated her, might dismiss the rumors. The same could not be said for commoners. Finding Lion was imperative, but if that failed, they needed to divert attention quickly. Ishur had reluctantly agreed, recognizing that rumors, once reversed, could be a powerful tool. If people were convinced their love was real, they would also accept the idea that Talia had manipulated them. Thus, their best course of action was to pose as pitiful lovers, used and betrayed by Talia. Scandals, after all, spread like wildfire, whether among commoners or nobles. And so, Ishur had to play the role of a man in love with Rein while secretly despising her. Rein had felt utterly humiliated by the plan, but she conceded that it was better than being trapped in a losing situation and unable to locate Lian. Now, back in the present, Talia vehemently protests, insisting that the opposite is true and that Rein had always been the one with feelings for Ishur. Without missing a beat, Ishur, maintaining his role, explains that his emotions had been different before their engagement. At that time, he had been blinded by duty to the empire, failing to recognize his true feelings and pushing them aside, believing it was the right thing to do. But as he continues, his performance grows even more dramatic. He claims that, as a mere human, he had only realized his heart's true desire after being with someone else. No matter what, his love for Rein could not be shaken. His heart, he declares, belongs solely to her. He should be cast in a drama. Ishur then solemnly states that by the time he realized his feelings, it was too late. Rein's heart had already turned away from him, choosing to remain faithful to Lion, her betrothed. The two of them had been trapped in misunderstandings for a long time, suffering because of circumstances beyond their control. He further confesses that it was he who had betrayed the gods, not Rein. She had nothing to do with it. Even Rein cannot help but admit that Ishur would have made a remarkable actor had he been born in another life. The script itself may be weak, but his performance is carrying the entire act. Then, suddenly, Ishur's eyes turn red. He looks at Rein and insists that now is not the time. Rein, confused, wonders what he is talking about. This was not part of the script. Before she can react, Ishur pulls something from his pocket and declares that he cannot wait any longer. Panic sets in, and Rein hastily activates her voice transmission skill, commanding him to shut up and stop whatever he is trying to do. Ignoring her, Ishur wears her ring and asks if she will give him one more chance. Rein, staring at him with a bewildered expression, feels an overwhelming thirst. At that moment, a quest notification appears. She has received the token of trust from Ishur. Later that night, Rein sits alone, drowning herself in alcohol as she contemplates what has just happened. Everything had been going smoothly, so why did Ishur suddenly decide to propose? Why did he have to ruin their carefully laid out plan? The King of Waves and Healing expresses his approval, his eyes sparkling as he declares that he accepts this relationship. Meanwhile, the vicious blood cult leader screams in outrage, vehemently opposing it. The Lord of Temptation, on the other hand, simply laughs, remarking that he never expected Ishur to be worse than Sidon. Rein sighs, glancing at her status screen. The number -500 stares back at her. She had always expected this moment to come eventually, but even so, she should have dealt with it much sooner, despite how frustrating it was. Determined to find some clarity, she finally picks up the book she had been waiting to read. After all, everything she had done was so she could reach this very moment. Just then, Sidon arrives, asking if he may have a moment with her. Rein, exhausted, hopes it will be brief. He assures her that he simply has one question before leaving. With a sigh, she allows him to sit and asks what it is. Sidon directly questions why she never told him anything. He reminds her of the day she accepted him as her pupil, when he swore he would do anything for her. Since then, he has looked into all the things Talia had done to her, and he realizes that if he had gone public with that information, he would have also had to expose the Crown Prince. He looks broken as he asks why she was willing to accept such a difficult situation. Rein acknowledges that it is a valid question. She had accepted Sidon as her pupil, but she had never expected him to ask something like this. She explains that even if she had presented evidence, people would not have believed her so easily. That is why they needed a dramatic performance. Most importantly, this was his responsibility, not hers. She had no intention of leaving her fate in someone else's hands. She had always solved things on her own. That was what she was used to. However, she assures him that the evidence he gathered will be useful in determining whether people are telling the truth. She hopes he is not disappointed. Sidon, struggling to hide his emotions, reluctantly asks if this is the reason she and the crown prince. Realizing what he is implying, Rein questions whether he is referring to her fake relationship with Ishur. Sidon is shocked to learn that they are already on a first-name basis. Rein, growing nervous, confirms he can say that, but in reality, Rein only thinks of Ishur as if he were a character in a novel. Sidon gets sad since he had believed she no longer had feelings for Ishur. She clarifies that their relationship is not real, it is merely a strategic alliance. Rein, irritated, demands to know what that even means. Sidon sighs once more, admitting that if he wishes to stay by her side, he will simply have to accept things as they are. However, he hopes that in the future, she will not hesitate to use him if she needs to. He does not want to feel as helpless as he did at the party again. If he to become someone better suited for her, then perhaps one day she will be able to lean on him a little more. At the capital palace, Ishur questions whether Sidon truly desires the title of Marquis. Sidon responds that it was always meant for him, after all. Ishur, however, points out the contradiction. Why is he seeking the title now when he had previously refused it? Sidon, with an air of indifference, remarks that if he cannot obtain it here, he will simply go to another empire where his title can be granted. Ishur observes that Sidon has changed significantly and wonders aloud if this transformation is because of Rein. He further states that he cannot allow an imperial swordsman to defect to another nation. However, since Sidon once rejected the title and swore never to pledge allegiance to anyone, he will now have to prove himself by completing a mission, one that would justify offering the title again. When Sidon inquires about the nature of this mission, Ishur informs him of unsettling reports from the northern borders. The Margrave has sent word of a rising number of monsters in the area, alongside outbreaks of contagious diseases and widespread famine. Sidon argues that such crises, monsters, famine, and plagues could be linked to dark magic, making it the temple's responsibility to handle. Ishur acknowledges this possibility, but explains that the temple is easily frightened by such matters, which is why he wants Sidon to investigate personally. If Sidon successfully completes this task, Ishur confirms that he will grant him the title. Without hesitation, Sidon prepares to depart, to which Ishur urges him to make haste, as winter is approaching. As Sidon turns to leave, Ishur suddenly calls out to him, questioning if Rein is truly the reason behind his change of heart, the reason he now desires the title he once refused. Sidon hesitates before responding, uncertain of his own feelings. He silently wonders if Rein really holds that much importance to him and whether he can even define what she means to him. Finally, he replies that he does not know, but whatever she means to him, it is far greater than what she means to Ishur. Ishur, clearly irritated, remarks on how Sidon is growing increasingly insolent, much like Rein. However, Sidon's words leave Ishur deep in thought as he gazes at his ring, pondering what Rein truly means to him. The scene shifts to Rein, who receives another quest. After finishing the first book of the novel, she has come to a troubling realization. Completing the novel requires her to engage in a romantic relationship, something she has no experience with. After all, what would be the purpose of a romance fantasy if there were no romance? The ruthless blood, ever watchful, expresses concern over whether Rein will end up married. The Queen of Tears and Healing considers the idea of settling down to be reasonable, while the ruler of temptation casually suggests he knows of a good honeymoon package. Frustrated, Rein commands them all to be quiet. The leader of the ruthless blood, in particular, declares that marriage is out of the question. Rein, exasperated, points out that even if she were to marry the prince, does anyone truly believe she would be happy? After all, she would be marrying someone 100 years younger than herself. The leader of the ruthless blood reacts with outrage, demanding that she break off the engagement immediately. However, Rein sighs, explaining that she cannot do so, as the main quest requires her to protect Ishur, making him a central figure in the novel. The ruthless blood leader, unwavering, declares that the marriage will only happen over his dead body. Rein, equally irritated, insists that they stop making demands over a marriage that is unlikely to happen and proceeds to block even his direct messages. Exhausted, she finally prepares to rest. She had hoped to feel some relief after reading the novel, yet she does not. Book 1 had primarily contained details she had already discovered or experienced firsthand. Ishur and Layan's loveless engagement, her friendship with Layan, and the fact that Rein was the victim of bullying, not the villainess. However, one revelation completely takes her by surprise. Both she and Lian are main characters in the novel, yet the book also acknowledges the existence of the person who has possessed Rein's body. This was something she had never encountered in the last novel she entered, as that world had remained purely fictional, whereas she herself is a real person. This raises an unsettling question. Why has she become a character in this story? Yet another troubling thought lingers in her mind. She had assumed Sidon would be a character in the novel since he had been with her from the beginning. However, his name is nowhere to be found. This baffles her. With his striking appearance, rich backstory, and immense power, Sidon possesses all the qualities of a main character, yet the novel does not mention him even once. Of course, Rein had never visited the slums in the original storyline, so perhaps Sidon only appears later. However, his presence does not seem minor enough to have been completely omitted. She wonders if she will find any answers once she begins reading Book 2. A knock at the door interrupts her thoughts. Annoyed, she sighs and mutters to herself, "Speak of the devil." One of the individuals responsible for her constant headaches has come to see her. Sidon pauses at the threshold, sensing that he may have arrived at a bad time. Rein, though visibly exhausted, permits him to enter. While drinking alcohol, she turns to him and asks what he wants. He informs her that he has come to deliver the reports regarding House Kifros. She immediately questions whether the verdict has already been decided, surprised at how quickly it happened. Sidon reveals that there was no trial, the temple intervened. Rein narrows her eyes in suspicion. Why would the temple involve itself, especially after Talia dared to target the Empire's saint? Angrily, she recalls how the temple had ignored Lion's suffering when she had been in real danger, yet now they choose to step in. Sidon explains that it was the saint herself who requested leniency, claiming that she was fine and that no punishment was necessary. Lion truly is a saint. She contemplates whether she should round up the entire temple for this. Suddenly, realization strikes her. If Lion had requested punishment, it would have led to Rein being imprisoned as well. Lion had done this for her friend. Sidon, noticing her change in demeanor, asks if she is all right. She dismisses his concern and inquires about the temple's reasoning. Sidon reveals their true motives. By intervening, the temple gained several advantages. They publicly aligned themselves with the prince, used the opportunity to execute Count and Countess Kifros, key figures in the princess's faction, and secured a merciful image by sending Talia to a convent under the pretense that she was still a young lady. Furthermore, they justified their past silence on assassination attempts against Lian by attributing it to Lion's boundless mercy. This entire ordeal allowed them to demonstrate their continued power, showing that they could still influence noble trials and enforce executions. Rein, growing irritated, mutters that the temple says one thing but thinks another. This is precisely why she dislikes religious figures. Just in case, she instructs Sidon to find out which convent Talia has been sent to. To acknowledge his efforts, she hands Sidon a drink and praises his hard work. However, Sidon remains concerned. He questions whether she is truly all right with the outcome, as she never received a proper apology. The temple handled everything according to its own agenda. Rein shrugs it off. There is no point in being upset now. What's done is done. She admits that, ultimately, she lacks the authority to punish Talia. The one who truly deserved an apology was the real Rein, not her. Sidon suddenly calls her name, snapping her out of her thoughts. He informs her that he will be absent for some time. When she questions whether he is busy, he vaguely responds that she could say that. Silence follows, making it clear that he does not intend to elaborate. Eventually, he explains that he has received reports of strange occurrences near the border and will be traveling north to investigate. Rein, intrigued, asks for more details. He describes traces of dark magic appearing intermittently, but there is something particularly unusual about this case. Some individuals have reported hallucinations, visions of a tower. A horrifying realization dawns upon Rein. Her eyes widen as the rain begins to fall outside. Her hands tremble slightly as she digs her nails into the sofa, willing herself to remain calm. She cannot confirm anything yet. Forcing herself to speak, she demands a description of the tower. Sidon, startled by her reaction, hesitates before answering. Witnesses describe it as an impossibly tall black tower, stretching so high into the sky that its top cannot be seen. Rein immediately grabs Sidon and declares that she must go to the tower. There are things Rein sees when she closes her eyes. A black tower piercing through the clouds, monsters hunting humans, and people running like mad to survive. But the most sickening sight of all is the sacrifices, good people throwing themselves into the throes of death to save others. The countless moments when a sacrifice becomes inevitable. Young despises them all. Rein stands still when Sidon asks if she is all right. Patting his head, she assures him that she is fine. She finds it endearing that he doesn't even know what she is worried about, yet he still worries. They have finally arrived at the Empire's northern frontier, where the magic tower has been spotted. The Queen of Tears and Healing advises Rein not to overexert herself. But how could Rein not push herself when it is the magic tower they are dealing with? She knows full well what could happen if that appears. From behind, Isha requests Rein to show some manners, questioning how she can casually touch another man's head in the presence of her supposed lover. Rein merely scoffs at the implication. It would only matter if they were real lovers. Annoyance flashes through her as she questions if Isha followed them just to be a nuisance. He, in turn, finds the answer obvious. Having two lovers disappear together would attract less attention than the absence of just one. Sidon, however, argues that the former would seem even more suspicious. Isha huffs in frustration, grumbling about how no one is ever on his side. At that moment, the Queen of Waves and Healing informs them that she has detected the tower. Rein is impressed. It has been found already. Without hesitation, she starts running, her senses sharpening as she feels the energy growing stronger. Yet something is different. There is more than one familiar energy within the magic tower, something both recognizable and foreign at the same time. The ruler of temptation acknowledges familiarity with both presences. Sidon, standing beside Rein, suddenly feels a dangerous force emanating from the tower. Isha, undeterred, prompts Rein to step forward, admitting that he himself has never felt such an energy before. As Sidon places a hand on Rein's shoulder, Isha immediately slaps it away. The two rivals begin bickering over who should protect her, much to Rein's exasperation. She swiftly smacks them both, forcing them to stop. Sidon's expression turns serious as he senses divine power, meaning that people from the temple have arrived first. He points out that Rein might feel uncomfortable meeting them and suggests that she take a moment to rest. When Rein questions whether he is certain about sensing divine power, he confirms it, estimating the presence to be at least strong enough for a bishop. Rein contemplates his words. If she truly missed sensing it, then it must be because divine power has never suited her. Perhaps, even in this life, she lacks much sensitivity to it. The ruthless blood leader coldly states that divine power would never suit his contractor. Rein hesitates, considering her next move. She is certain that the temple will be hostile toward her. The Queen of Waves and Healing warns that she will inevitably encounter clergymen if she continues straight in this direction. Yet, what is even more certain is that bringing both Sidon and Isha along will only double the hassle. Making her decision, Rein turns to them and states that if they continue this way, they will run into the temple's delegation. She instructs them to go ahead and speak with the delegation first. There is something she needs to look into on her own. Her words shock both men. Isha immediately protests, insisting that it is too dangerous and that he will accompany her. Rein, however, dismisses his concern, stating that this only concerns her and has nothing to do with him. She assures him that it won't be dangerous at all. Isha attempts to argue but fails miserably. Sidon tries next, using his gentle yet firm demeanor to claim that her business is his business. He, too, fails. Rein stops them both, firmly stating that they will only get in her way. If they are so worried for her, they can simply wait for her. She will find them later. Without another word, she leaps onto the winter bear and disappears from their sight. Now alone, she activates the impenetrable net, a spell that normally requires multiple casters, but with her elementals, she is confident she can manage it on her own. She focuses her senses and detects people hunting nearby. The individuals with divine power seem to have noticed her as well. But something else catches her attention, an evil energy heading in her direction. She halts, narrowing her eyes. Is she imagining things? The ruthless blood leader laments the situation, while the Queen of Waves and Healing prepares great water to cleanse Rein's eyes. The ruler of temptation offers his condolences in an exaggerated manner. In front of Rein stands the tower. It is several times larger and more ominous than she remembers from her past life. The ruthless blood leader notes that it feels far more alien and dangerous than before. At that moment, a system notification appears before her. A new subquest has been assigned. Sub-quest was that the tower, a space of eternal mystery that does not belong to this world, has appeared. However, it looks different from what Rein remembers from her past life, and promotes how about she go inside and see how different it is with her own eyes. Conditions for completion were to clear the 3rd floor of the tower, and completion reward was Astra summoning greater than skill. Rein sweats knowing this is a problem. The ruthless blood leader practically vomits blood in excitement. The Queen of Waves and Healing subtly glances at Rein with anticipation. The ruler of temptation eagerly begs her to summon him, promising that he won't demand any more souls. Rein deeply regrets her life choices as the Astras become increasingly excited. Astras, omnipotent gods or beings whose names have echoed throughout the universe due to their extraordinary powers. They lend their strength to contractors, either to spread their fame in the world or simply for the pleasure of watching their contractors fulfill their goals. The Astras Rein has known for a long time were like that once. The ruthless blood leader complains that Rein should say something because he is bored. The Queen of Waves and Healing wails after being dumped by the final spark of life. The ruler of temptation sends Rein a flirtatious wink. They are no longer just powerful entities, they have become needy VIP customers. Anonymous Astra grumbles that he has been locked away for 5,000 years. If he can't even be summoned once just to see the light of day, what's the point? Back in his day, contractors did everything their Astras asked of them. Anonymous Astra, he insists that they are only worried about Rein. After all, who could possibly hurt her? She is strong on her own, but wouldn't it be fine if she summoned them just a little? Anonymous Astra C is unable to attend the conversation. He is too busy making a list of things to do once he is summoned. Rein understands their excitement. After only being able to assist her indirectly, they are desperate to enter the world themselves. They want this badly. She turns her attention back to the tower. There are no monsters nearby, which means it has not yet been activated. If that is the case, then the door will not open either. Only one option remains. She slams her fist against the door, activating both her fire and water powers, and demands to come to her. But inside the tower, there is no one. The ruthless blood leader scans the surroundings carefully. Rein's gaze lands on a stone slate, something she has never seen on any floor of the tower before. A system notification flashes before her eyes. She scowls, shouting in frustration. Is it really a system notification? She wonders if the system actually be the one sending her messages now, when it has never sent a single notification for hundreds of years, and now it suddenly chooses to communicate with her through the tower. It is shocking enough that the system has sent a notification like this, but Rein is even more surprised to find that there are more than just a few stone slates scattered around. As she scans the area, her eyes land on another slate. The message reads, "There's been an error in their reward distribution due to an unexpected bug in the system, and they are working hard to fix the problem. But it doesn't look like they will be able to resolve it anytime soon." They understand that Rein is eagerly waiting for her reward, and after some urgent discussions on the matter, they offer a solution to her. Rein scoffs that at least they seem to have some semblance of a conscience. However, the system notification has other plans. Another slate appears before her, stating that they would like her to fix the bug for them. Apparently, after analyzing the issue, they have determined that the bug responsible for breaking the system is right here in this very tower. Once she clears the tower, the bug will be fixed as well. The ruthless blood leader calmly advises Rein to be patient and read a little further. Begrudgingly, she picks up another slate. This one states, since they know they shouldn't leave the entire debugging process to her, they were willing to offer some help. They presses they can't get rid of the tower immediately, but they can intervene in how she can clear it. Wow, so much help. Dear system notifications, how generous. The message continues, explaining that due to a recent patch, the difficulty level for clearing the tower has been lowered. She can now expect the quest to not only be easier, but also more interesting, and promotes her why don't she enjoy a little romance this time around. The system insists her to enjoy the newly upgraded tower in this new genre, and promises that a big like this will never happen again.